we go. Hitting go live. Bum, bum, bum. Hey guys, how's it going? What's up?
It is 10 p.m. I'm here for work.
What's up, my peeps? Yeah, no shit, eh?
But I made turkey burgers with bacon, 2 types of bacon. I made crispy bacon, normal bacon, because I thought texture difference, and they were quite nice. So I'm still turkey full.
Mm-hmm. Very good, very good. So they said to him, pa-rum-pa-pum-pum.
I'm trying to log into the live thing to see how many people actually here, because I don't know yet, because I can't see.
Bang on my drum. 23 people, 26 likes, which is awesome. I already have some super chats, which is also great.
Hey, Sebastian. Good stuff. Yes, go watch Squadron, a Star Trek fan production. Please do. Please do.
Yes. Well, let's read the super chats we got right off the hop. Tanushi, €5. I'm certain they'd never make this episode or its final lesson today. Those who clothe themselves in good deeds are well camouflaged. Right? Now, if I was like the mustache twirling bad guys are easy. And all I could think of, do I not appear appropriately sinister? It's like,
this Borg bitch. It's like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, his acting in this one is fucking top notch. Patrick Stewart.
Well, it's sad when Frakes says some of his best work is in Picard. Some of his worst work is in Picard.
Yeah. And this one was directed by Frakes as well, by the way.
Yeah, one was first then.
Yeah.
Probably second. Because I haven't really kept track of them. Although, you know, it's certainly a pick when you're from close up to mid shot sort of direction. You know what I mean? It's not as if there's like lots of setups and lots of like moving shots. So it's very much like he knows how to direct people. Yeah. It's people, not things.
Yes. Not a bad account though. $2. Starfleet should have used enhanced interrogation. Oh, that's rough.
Oh, wait, that's a reference to something, isn't it? Isn't it?
Probably waterboarding and things that aren't allowed. I don't know what enhanced interrogation would entail.
I don't know.
Might be. Area 51, $2. Picard being Picard in spectacular fashion here. Absolutely, 1,000. This is Picard at his best, in my opinion. It's also such a good episode.
It's also Picard as quite an aggressive person as well. He's having to fight with harsher words than he's used to, you know? He's being a diplomat, but in a very hard way, which is unlike him, as in, like, it's a different side of that coin, which is interesting. It's not the Picard you normally think of, that's because he's been pushed from the inside of Starfleet, I mean. It's always the outside threat. Here he's fighting the inside threat.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, guys, hit that like button. 44 of you here, 33 likes. That is awesome to start with. So keep going, guys. I'm sure we'll get a good turnout for this one. It is a good one. It is one of the best of TNG. So
we have had that mentioned to us a few times. So, you know, hopefully Jill will be here at some point.
She hasn't been around much lately, and I'm wondering why. Yeah. I see her on Twitter every once in a while, so hopefully she shows up.
With TNG, I'm sure she'll like this one. And it is, you know, the second trial episode. I can't really think of another TNG one. I think the next time we get it is... Well, I guess the third if you count Ardra. Then we've got the DS9 one, also the Klingon. I don't know what that's called either, but not that many trial episodes. It's kind of the other one. But yeah, if you include Ardra, it's kind of the third trial.
True. Yeah. Not a bad account. $2. Episodes like this give me hope. Post World War III future. Well, that you got to live through World War III then. I don't know why you have hope.
Well, look, the eugenics wars weren't as bad as everyone said. We all lived through them. I came out swimmingly.
That's because they alerted us to that in the 60s. So the Section 31 or whoever had a lot of time to make sure we didn't know about it. So
or Gary Seven did a really good job.
Yep.
Like really good job. To the point that he really undid everything.
Yeah. Well, do you want to share?
Yep, that is me, so I'll be back in a moment.
All right. So yeah, guys, welcome back. It is time to talk some Drumhead. If you guys want to help us out, you can do so by super chatting. It's a great way to get your voice heard. We do read all of them, and they really help us with the channel. They show your support, and we really appreciate that. So if you're able to, please do that. Also considering hitting that join button, that makes you join the channel. You get some cool emojis and stickers and stuff for the live chat, and plus a little badge beside your name highlighted, so you're more likely to read out your comments that way as well. Different ranks that you can join the channel at. So if you want to take a look at that, at least hit that join button. You don't, just because you hit it doesn't mean you're joining. It shows you the lists of what you get and the different things. So check it out if you're able to. We'd really appreciate that, as that's a big backbone for the channel. And also don't forget Patreon/Trekyards. It's another monthly way to help us out as well if you're able to. Also, if you want to send a PayPal, there is PayPal information down in the description of every video. If you want to shoot us a PayPal, just let us know that you sent a PayPal. Let the moderators in chat know, so that we know to check the email, and we'll read your comment or question via the email for PayPal as well. So lots of great ways. One of the best ways to help us out, though, honestly, is hit that like button when you join the chat or when you come in. We'd really appreciate that. And it bolsters our confidence that you guys really like what we're doing here. So we really appreciate that as well. So lots of great ways to help us out. Also, you can help yourself out in the description of every video. There are links to like Eagle Moss and things like that, where you can save yourself some money using the discount code Trekyards10 at Eagle Moss. You can save yourself 10% right off the top, which is a great way to support the channel and help yourself out as well. So keep that in mind, guys. There's a lot of ways to help us out. The description of every video has lots of great ways to assist us if you want to, if you really enjoy the content and what we do here. So we'd really appreciate it. 62 people here at 37 likes. That is good. I think we can do better, though. I think we can hit 50 likes easily. So hit that like button. I'm sure 13 of you haven't hit like yet. So make sure you hit that. Let's get that like count up to 50 at least to start with here, guys. So, yeah. And Samuel's back.
Good night.
Yay.
Hello.
Dave Stelzer, $2.
Yay.
I'll add $2. And Boimler adds Drumhead. Yes.
Which now I can appreciate even more as a reference. Because I didn't really remember the episode very much.
Well, yeah. Speaking of.
But those 71 people can we get 50 likes right now. Click like. I want to see 50 likes. Come on. You haven't clicked like. I know you haven't. Click it now. Like right now. Let's see that like spike. Let's see a like jump. Let's drumhead, bitch. Come on, 50.
Not a band account, $2. Which is better, the Kirk speech or the Picard speech? Picard speeches are always better. Always.
Which Kirk speech? That's a very broad.
I think he's just saying in general.
I think probably. Well, Kirk sells the emotion better. Picard sells the depth better. And that kind of summarizes them as characters.
Mm-hmm.
Emotion versus depth and whatever. Thank you from Lookout. Good to see you, everybody. Come on, 6 more likes. Come on. Click it.
Click it. All right. So, yeah. Am I supposed to talk about this episode?
Yes, Stuart, what do you think of season 4, episode 21, near the end of season 4, Drumhead?
A lot different than I remember it. I really enjoyed it this watch through. I remember not liking. I liked the episode obviously because it's a good episode, but I remember it being a lot more going on. This was very cut and dry to the point. It wasn't as deeply woven as I thought. I thought they involved more people. They accused more people. I thought the poor guy, the half Romulan or the quarter Romulan guy, I thought he ended up committing suicide before the episode was over.
What were you watching?
That was one of the Mandela Effect. I was watching the actual episode as it appeared in my dimension before we got crossed over to this one.
In your brain, there was a really dramatic thing. He walks on the bridge and Terrell's himself.
No, he just killed himself off screen, and that was the tragedy of it. And then Picard gives a speech at the end. That's exactly how I remember it. Because his career was ruined. I
wish we had some sort of closure on him, because the strength of this episode kind of relies a little bit on that character, and so not knowing if he was suspended or not kind of does dampen it a little bit. It's like, okay, can we get some closure, please?
Yeah, so that's what I remember. I remember closure on that character, and that's why it was so tragic and such a big statement. But I also remember more people getting accused of things, and this watch through it felt like it went very quickly. I thought would have felt like a longer episode. It went by rather quickly for me, and it was interesting because honestly, I can see the outside perspective of the Romulan, the Vulcan ambassador to the Romulans, and Worf, his dad, and all that. I can see how someone from the outside looking in might can see all this. However, I still absolutely, without a doubt, despise that bitch. I just cannot stand her character. Watching it through, because I had to watch it twice for this. Watching it through, and the first time I was like, oh, she's not too bad, until the end where she goes all psycho. And then watching it the second time, I just hated everything she said. Just the sound of her voice just fucking irritated me.
I wonder if
it reminds me of. Oh, sorry.
Well, I wonder if the voice was an intentional casting choice to make a slightly grating voice, because
she reminded me of the Admiral from Star Trek Beyond that's also in The Expanse, that old lady that sounds like he smokes 15 packs of cigarettes a day. Like, it just it gets on your nerves.
I feel like this woman and the CNC and Picard are good friends. Both bitchy and not very nice to people.
Yeah,
kind of the vibe I get.
Craig S23 £2 sorry. Truly amazing Prime Picard. So missed this character. Yes, absolutely. Totally agree with that.
Like, I remember the first time I watched an episode after Picard, we were like, oh god, this is oh my god, that's stark contrast. Wow, he was better 20 years ago.
Yes.
Anything else, Stuart? Was that your summary review?
Yeah, so I enjoyed it a lot. I really appreciated the writing and the direct, like, just the overall piece. But I really thought there was more interlacing, storyline going on there. So yeah, that's where I'm saying with that.
The problem with this episode for me is that the expectations you all put on me, saying it was one of the best episodes of TNG. So unfortunately, I went in with extremely high expectations, which is never a good thing because I didn't remember it very much. I knew there was a trial. I knew the Admiral's the sort of the villain. I knew the Klingon at the start was half Romulan. I obviously didn't know that, but I thought I knew that. I think that's the Klingon in DS9's half Romulan. And so I went in waiting for it to kind of be the best thing ever, and it really wasn't, because you guys sort of, it's the next Measure of a Man. I'm thinking it's not as good as Measure of a Man. It's not. That's not to say it's not great, but if Measure of a Man we gave like a 10, this is definitely not a 10. But that's because I was, even last week, you guys were, oh, Drumhead, and I'm thinking, oh, it's not quite that good. So it's kind of a weird place to be, because I'm thinking, I'm a bit disappointed, but it's still great. Do you know what I mean? It's prominent expectations. And I agree with you. It's definitely, whereas Measure of a Man felt more like a very well crafted, like script with nuance. This felt more like a hammer. It's a more blunt thing. There's a lot less nuance and subtlety. It just kind of hits you over the head, especially then. It's just like, bump, here's the thing. It's like, oh, okay, well, I mean, there's not much nuance. The writing is worse here than Measure of a Man. Not, again, bad, just there's definitely a level of quality difference. And I think this one is definitely very unfocused in comparison, because there's too many characters for them to give them justice. The fact that we had the first stuff with the Klingon, he gets moved on from. The middle guy, and then we get this very quick Picard bit at the end, which is meant to be the meat, but it almost feels like a side thought. And then Sati kind of burns herself at the end, and then it ends. So the pacing's a bit weird, and either should have been longer, or skip either the Klingon or the half-Romulan, because it was too many people to give them any sort of depth. And so none of them kind of felt as strong. And I'm confused by the end message when it comes to Satabi, because I took from it that she had retired, she's wrong because she's old and senile. But they don't say that. So I'm kind of like, what am I meant to take from this? Is she witch hunting because she's old and senile? Or was she right? Is she right? Because she's a famous investigator. Is she right 95% of the time, but does get 5% wrong? She didn't hate Picard from the outset, so it's not against him personally until near the end. So I'm thinking, what's the message against her? Like, if she's been right her entire career, except this one time, how can you judge her that wrong? If she's old and she's senile, they didn't tell me. So I don't know how to feel about her, She's a respected officer, except this one time. So, you know what I mean? Like, it seemed quite grey at the end. I'm just like, I mean, she was wrong this time, but...
You should despise her, because I do.
But is it because she's senile?
She's a bitch. Who cares? She's a bitch.
But she's obviously very good at her job. She's got to Admiral. She's an Admiral investigator. She's obviously incredibly talented.
But it makes you wonder if she's been like this her whole career. Has she put away people that have been innocent?
I don't know. Well, she probably proved them each time, even if the proof was circumstantial. But you'd think Starfleet would keep her to account. So I'm kind of confused where I'm meant to side on her, apart from we don't like her.
Yeah. No, I get that. I just...
whereas I appreciate a Measure of a Man, like, you understand exactly why they are who they are, the people that are fighting. Her, I'm not sure what I'm meant to get at the end.
This was interesting because... I don't know. This was interesting because I know I hated the character. I said that going into this. And then watching it the first time, I'm like, okay, when does the time come when I hate her? Because it's not really until near the end. And I'm like, okay, she's not too bad, not too bad. Oh, bitch.
It's when she orders Picard. That's like, oh, you've crossed that big line. Like that's a line you can't uncross.
Now watching that second through, right from the second I see her, I just, oh, you fucking cat.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's just very condescending. The problem is, obviously, she is an admiral. She's like the top lawyer admiral who's had the best career, whose dad was the best person. So she comes in with a certain level of, well, I've been brought in to be the best, and she does not let that, you know, she comes across that way. She may have earned it, but you're not meant to like her, obviously.
D.A. Gordon puts in $5. My dad always growled. LBJ. Don't know what that means specifically. Sorry.
Thank you. Very odd comment, but thank you.
Yes. She's no Judge Judy. No. Anyway. I really thought there was more going on in this episode than there actually was. So it was very straightforward and just kind of.
Which is funny because it keeps swapping tracks, but in a very straightforward way. There's not really any Although I do think the twist of it being not sabotage was an excellent twist. I thought that was kind of one of the best moments. Like, it doesn't change the game at all. Okay, that was the good twist.
And the whole time with that, I'm thinking that would have been great if that happened during a battle with the Romulans. All of a sudden, this faulty piece of housing just decided to, because they said last time we were at McKinley Station, which could have been months ago. Like, anyway, I thought the Picard thing was way more involved. Like, I thought he was on the chair a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I thought there was more heavy-hitting impact with the kid. Like, he killed himself because his career was ruined, all because of nothing, essentially, which would have, I think, made this episode a lot more. That's what I remember it being. I remember it being like a real, I don't want to watch this again. I didn't enjoy that because it was just kind of sad. But, yeah.
And like I said at the start, not having any answer what happened to the kid definitely weakens the ending. Because he was the focal point of, this is not justice. So what, is he just, because they dropped the case, he's fine? Which I guess so.
No, he lied on his application. No matter what, he's getting trumped out of...
But I mean, but as I said, why should that devalue who you are? I mean, maybe they can make a plea bargain. Remember, he said he was on Enterprise for 5 years. He was on the Enterprise a year and a half before Picard. He's probably the longest serving people on Enterprise, so he's really earned his career. Like, I don't know if that should be, I don't know if he would be thrown out just because he lied once with a thing that is, Vulcan and Romulan, they're genetically almost the same. Like, it's not the end of the world. So, I don't know.
I'm sure his character has been fleshed out in a novel, beta canon.
Sure. But I definitely wish there was at least one line, one line at the end of him for him.
Yeah.
Felt incomplete. And the Klingon guy was fine, but definitely incomplete with that. But it does kind of just end, It's like, and done.
Yep.
So, okay. Well, I like the fact that we got that Worf Picard at the... You only realise that they don't get that many scenes directly together as, like, people. Normally it's, Mr. Worf, do this! Yes, Captain! But then they're, like, really, like, acting. And that rarely happens. You don't realise that until, like, oh shit, they're doing, like, off character stuff.
Yeah. Area 51, $2. A crazy bad admiral. Shocker.
Yeah.
Right.
And definitely comes across as the crazy, which is interesting. But she is retired. So she's retired and off. And it's probably maybe she was forced to retire in some classified records. Yeah.
John Davey, €2. Not the worst episode, but forgettable. Stay safe, Sam and Stuart.
Yeah.
We will. Nice. Thank you so much. You stay safe as well, guys. All of you.
And do you think, I know we're going to get into it, but do you think it was interesting they chose...
We hit our 50.
Oh. Hey, good.
Oh. But let's hit 75. Hit that like button. Sorry, go ahead.
But didn't you think it was interesting that they made such a distinct choice to make him be unlisted? Which we never see, like directly thrown at the audience. Like, oh yeah, he explaining he didn't go to the academy. The idea of being officers, we've discussed before, like how many commanders, 10 commanders, are very few, but we always associate everyone's being an officer. It would have been nice to see more unlisted. There's probably like, 300, 400, 500 unlisted on the ship, because they're just doing the sort of grunt work. That was, I thought, what an interesting choice to make him not an officer, even an ensign. What do you think?
It was an interesting choice. I love how he talks about how he saw the officers doing their drills and stuff at Starfleet Academy and decided, I don't want to sit in the classroom for 4 years to get that officer thing. I want to be out and exploring, which I think spoke to Picard. Picard was like, yeah, I get that, But, it was an interesting choice.
Although his lack of patience is also probably why you know, he wouldn't have got in necessarily.
Yeah.
Alright, so let's go some scene by scene then.
Absolutely.
What is the first scene? Oh, yeah, go straight into the action. Jeez, we do not even get time to breathe, do we?
No, we don't. We learn about this Klingon exobiologist that's been working on the Enterprise, and they suspect he was involved in a security breach and possible sabotage of the warp drive.
There's also an exchange Klingon. I love the fact that they just brush over his Klingon scientist. Like, that's actually a statement. Exobiologist is quite a, you know... So I love that. It's just, yeah, obviously. No one questions that, which is nice. And he's still very the same, just a little bit less warrior-y.
Yeah, and they're like, according to your comm badge data, you were accessed the computer terminal on deck 36, and that download or schematics and of the lithium chamber fell into Romulan hands 1 week later. They have proof of this, so it's kind of sketchy to begin with.
Kind of.
I just love how they, like, according to your comm badge logs. So the comm badge does get tracked around the ship, which I think is great.
Which you would think later on when they say have people tracking him at all times, the kid is like, he is being tracked at all times. And we can also hear from the communicator because it's an auto microphone. You know?
Yeah. So basically they're like, you're accusing me because I'm Klingon, and they're like, our security guy's Klingon. That's not it. So they, Worf escort him to his quarters, and then they're like, what do you think? Hard to tell. He's definitely hiding something, but can't really tell what.
And I love his costume, first of all. I love very nice. Love the comm badge, juxtaposition comm, although it's bent, it's crooked in some later scenes, because why not? They don't.
I think that's because he was just pushed against the thing, so it was his clothes were shoved up.
I can see it just stands out more when it's. But I think it's a really cool costume, and I like.
And later when he walks away, you see the spines, Klingon spines from the Klingon armor. Yeah, it is cool.
Although you also see that there's tassels like off bikes at the bottom of his jacket, which is not quite as cool. But the spine, I always love when they put the spine in. My only issue with this character is that I like the look, I like the quite subdued like vibe, but almost all of his lines are, "I didn't do that." He's very boring to watch because they don't give him anything. Like, if all you're doing is saying, "I didn't do it," there's no depth you can go. Do you know what I mean? And then he suddenly swaps to, "I did it," and that's like, oh, okay, now he's out of the show. So they didn't give him much, really. So it's kind of, I know it's a building mystery, but he could have been a lot better. But he's the first part of a 3-part puzzle, and we've got to move to the second part. The second part gets all the character stuff. I just wish he was given more interesting stuff to do, because I like his overall vibe.
Yeah.
Personally.
Barry Renshaw, 10 pounds. The first Link speech massively impacted me as a teenager. The importance of freedom of discussion, association, thought, etc. is still so vital today. By the way, I'd like to know more about Sam's CGI work.
Made in Lightwave, hard to do. Lots of layers, like the minute to work. I work for about 10 fan films a year. Check out my fan film temporarily. I'm doing one with Stuart. There you go. Quick and easy. Thank you.
Cool. Mark Lawrence, $5. I'd still wear that leather Klingon outfit today.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty cool. And this walk and talk is actually kind of neat. Talking about how, you're disgraced Klingon. I have friends that can help you. All I ask is a shuttle. And like, you're asking the wrong guy. Just saying. And then he gets slammed against a a wall. So yeah.
And I find this a little bit.
It's worth a try.
It is, and actually, it shows he is dishonorable, because that's what a Romulan would do, Although I find it a little bit silly to think that he thinks a shuttle is a good plan, because, like, once they realize you're God, they'll track you and find you within, 45 minutes. Like, you can't get far on a shuttle unless you've, prepared a rendezvous. So he's not the smartest tool in the shed, but obviously, what else can you do? I just wish there was more of a plan there, I guess he was expecting not to be caught. And to be fair though, he wouldn't have been caught if there wasn't a accidental explosion. He's there because there's the coincidence factor of 1 week later the thing blows up. That wasn't to do with him. So actually, I clicked on that. His plan was effing amazing. It's very, very good. But freak accident means he goes to jail. Wow. Bad luck. Yeah, seriously.
Oh, well, yeah, bad luck all around.
Or good luck. Or good luck. I mean, let's be, just for, yeah.
Yeah. But then we got a no berth. And then retired Admiral Nora Sati beams aboard. And Starfleet thought it was important enough to bring her in because there's a lot of things happening here. Schematic getting leaked to the Romulans, and then a sabotage of the flagship of the Federation. Dun dun dun.
And you have the Klingon guy as well. So you got Klingons, Romulans, flagship, Dilithia. Like that's some pretty meaty stuff.
And Picard makes a mention of it later to her about. Does that make it seem like the Romulans and Klingons have reestablished an alliance?
Yeah.
So
we'll get to that. That was an odd little moment because we know that's not true. So it was an odd little moment for sure. I mean, it isn't. But I like the fact that they say she's actually retired, which is interesting. But given how old she looks, as I've argued often, if Picard's already 70 and the actor's actually 50, she looks like she's 70. I think she looks less old than I think she... I don't know. But if she's retired at like 90 and yet Bones is still working at 130, why are they retiring so young, Unless they're implying she's like 160 but looking amazing.
Well, probably that's the case. Or like you said, maybe she got forced out for some reason. Or maybe she just I just want to enjoy the last half of my life. A lot of people retire when they're 50 if they can, right? So... it'd be no different.
But then she makes this weird argument that I've been traveling around for 4 years on shuttles and starbase. It's like, why? You're retired.
Yeah.
That didn't connect. But I like the fact that she's retired because that tells us something. And I really would love there to be a subplot, like the Admiral, who didn't get a single line, to at the end, pull him away and say, I don't want to say this, Jean-Luc, but we've actually fired her because she's crazy. That's right. She was retired on purpose. Admiral Clancy vouched for her, and we don't like Admiral Clancy. When she's TNC, we'll make sure to give you a phaser stunner when you're in an office.
She had this weird conspiracy that the Klingons used to look totally different, and there was some kind of.
And this guy called Takuvama. It's weird. And actually,
ask her to say Kalas. She says it funny.
with an accent that goes on for 4 minutes, she go. But they also said, and I thought it was weird, she was the key to exposing the conspiracy in season 1. I don't remember her being in those episodes, and it was Picard and the captains. I know it's a retcon, but it seems a little bit of a poor retcon that I don't see what she could have done to really be that involved in that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want to sort of make her seem important. That's a really great thing to do, but you did nothing to help visibly. Picard did the work, and those captains that sacrificed themselves or got killed. What did you do? Yeah. I don't think that was quite worked. But she brings 2 of her aides, who've both done their own thing, which I thought was kind of cool.
One's a Betazoid. It's worth pointing out.
Who is okay with breaking into people's brains? She's converted him to her way of thinking. Oh. And I like the extra context. I've got my old aides because they will go where I will go. They will go as far as I will go. This Betazoid guy will push further than you're meant to go because he knows I'm okay with it. If I'm an admiral, I say it's okay. And you definitely get a creepy vibe off the guy, just a bit, abuse of power creepy. And she's just acts a bit weird. So I kind of like that. I brought my team, which you think is nice. Nope, because she's a little bit more. Yeah. Whatever.
Well, D.A. Gordon puts in 2 $5 super chats, and I'm glad he clarified with the second one because he says, want to start United Earth, because I was going to ask what UE stands for. 5 to here, share 5 to be a handshake. What? I'm still confused by the end of that, actually.
Yes.
Can you figure it out, or am I just old and dumb?
Talk to the mods in the normal chat, and they'll tell us what you mean. Sorry, we love you though. Sorry.
Yeah. Not a band account, $2. Why didn't they use Psycho Tricorder to interview? Psycho Tricorder. Psycho. I don't know. Because that was a plot device, maybe in another episode that I'm not remembering what you're talking about. I don't know, maybe.
Don't know. Sorry.
Olivia Julius, $10. May the Puggy be forever in your favor. Sorry I'm not here today. I'm on drop off 5 out of 5 today. So she's
awesome.
Yeah. Pet Samuel and say hi to Precious for me. Wait, what? Oh, it's a good Samuel. He's a good boy.
Thank you.
Oh, ruffle your hair, make it all fluffy.
It is very fluffy right now, so yeah.
Yeah. I just did that on everyone to see. AC Costello, $2.
When the president tells you to do something, you have to do it.
One of my favorites. This plot resounds through today. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Wow. All right. So she's like, I don't want to see my quarters. I want to get to work straight away because Starfleet thought this was important enough to pull me out of retirement. So, and she's right. I mean, if the flagship was sabotaged, goes down, meets Data and Geordi, and we see that the warp core is still sealed off because the radiation is still too high in there. It'll be back to normal levels within 49 hours. I'm like, why don't you just send Data in, beam him in? He can do an investigation. He wouldn't get irradiated.
Stuart.
But anyway.
Because if they did that, they wouldn't have a leg to stand on in the trial. Never thought of that. Excellent point. And to be fair, yeah, why haven't they got a radiation suit? Like, surely you'd have something for this eventuality, because what if you need to get to warp at any point? I mean, this almost, well, or why is there no Vulcan who can sacrifice their lives to reinstall a thing to then be regenerated in another movie?
To put get the mains back online.
Exactly.
Gotta lift the thing off, blast in the face, realign the things in there.
But this one blasts this way, so like, yeah, beautiful. But it was a cool context difference for the warp core. Although, boy, those boys are so nonchalant though. They're so nonchalant. There's a certain a little disconnect, but I mean the danger's done, isn't it? So, yeah.
Well, we see the video, which was logged 4 days ago at 0300 hours, so 3 a.m, which is a good time if you're going to make something go boom, to make it go boom, because you'd think they'd have less of a crew on, whatever. Anyway, you see it explode, and pretty interesting explosion, I guess. It's not very great, just saying.
Yes, it's clearly a spark, and then they quickly edit in the damaged bit. That's too it's fine. But that's the thing. It's not a warp core explosion. It's a very specific, like, small thing.
Yeah.
Which obviously we know it's an accident, which explains why. They do say warp engines are down.
Yeah.
It's a really big thing, and if the context is that, because the way they start up the episode, when they give the voiceover, they express that he's probably a conspirator. He disabled the warp engines. That's a big thing to do, because you are stuck middle of nowhere.
Yeah. But nobody was injured. Well, nobody was killed, but 2 people were in sickbay for being treated for radiation burns. But yeah, so they've determined that the articulation framework collapsed. That's what caused the explosion. And
but Stuart, the articulation framework was part of the schematic sent to the Romulans.
It was. Yeah. But sabotage, it's pointed towards sabotage, which other evidence points to as well. A review of the sensor logs indicates that every system's reading was within normal parameters until 52 milliseconds before the explosion.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what's important to clarify here is that it's not sabotage, but all the evidence says it is. They're not confirming it, but obviously all they have to go on says one thing, and all they can ever trust is their scans and sensors and deduction. So just like, just Sherlock Holmes would say, this is a logical deduction, we'll wait until we get in, but it makes sense to sabotage, because I like that as a comment. Everything worked until it didn't. At the same time, this close.
Yeah.
And even the explanation could still be sabotage, I feel like, with a small S, just less of a bomb situation. But it's a very, like, ooh. And I thought it was sabotage the entire time. I didn't think, as in, I was surprised by the reveal. I thought that seemed pretty conclusive.
Yeah. Well, I got for Star Trek gets really good for TNG, because this one shot of the Enterprise going by camera was a nice angle, nice look. And I was just watching some season 7, I forget which episode it was the other day, and there's some really impressive looking shots. They darkened it seemed more cinematic. I forget the episode now right offhand, but not a bad account, $5. In the TOS episode Wolf in the Fold, the Psycho Tricorder scans and discerns who is telling the truth with complete accuracy. They should use it. That's a plot device.
Pretty useful. Although they would just say, it doesn't work on half Romulans.
Oh yeah, it doesn't work, but because of the radiation down in engineering is affecting the. Yeah, I don't know.
It doesn't work if there's too much bitch in the room. Saturday, go.
Oh yeah, she's just on the ship in general. That won't work. Squadra core is $2. To fix the core, you just have to kick it. I mean, that's wrong movie, wrong universe. That's the Kelvin verse. That's how they fix everything in the Kelvin verse. Just kick down and over to move it up and what? Anyway, that's another discussion. Anyway, we're in the ready room, and this is where the whole conversation about Klingon-Romulan connection is interesting. And he asks her what Starfleet knows about that or thinks about that. And she's like, well, I don't think that's for me to reveal. He says, well, this ship has encountered several incidents which may suggest a potential alliance between those two powers. And I don't know if he's referring to, I think he's referring to the Duras thing.
But that was based on an event from Worf's dad. So that was...
No, Duras just a second ago, like last season. With the little micro explosive that was in the guy's arm.
Oh, yes. So I thought
there was this Romulan connection there.
I always forget about the one before the main one. I always forget. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so that's what he's referring to.
Yeah.
Judge 1981, $10. Ooh. Thank you so much. Drive-by of this episode for how paranoia can spread quickly. This episode left me feeling dirty due to the trial. Remember, people, to hit like. Yes, hit like, guys. We have 77 likes, 114 people here. We can hit 100 likes easily. Hit that like button if you haven't. If you haven't, I want you to feel guilty. It's a conspiracy to take Trekyards down because people that don't hit like don't ever contribute to anything that this channel has done. And it's a conspiracy. We're going to get into it. We're going to solve this thing.
You've all got bugs in your head. It's a conspiracy. AC Costello asks, Trekyards, what's better, Super Chats or PayPal? That's a complicated question, but I think right now, Super Chat, because we get to hear what you say. PayPal's good other times of the year, but right now, Super Chat if you want to have your thought or question, and we like that interaction. Especially in this whole episode where we want to know what you think, etc., etc. Yeah, and this scene, especially when I remember this scene, I got the very slight, and again, let me know what you think because we watched it twice, that she's a bit older and not on top of things senility-wise, because she's like, well, there may be this problem, but I won't tell you. I'm thinking, she has no knowledge, she's not in the loop anymore, she's just kind of saying something to be in power over Picard. She doesn't actually know anything.
She's trying to seem like she knows more what's going on than she does. Because absolutely, with the way she said, I'm not inclined to tell you what Starfleet thinks.
It felt like bullshit to me. Yeah, I'm retired. I have no idea. And the way he says it, she's like, "Oh yes, that's it." It's like, "Oh, you didn't know." Yeah. Okay, cool. Because she's a weird cookie. She's a really weird admiral because she's retired, so she's not an active one, and she's lonely and sad, but only has her job. I get the feeling this is like. She was called back into one last job and she's relishing it. He wants to make it her big last job, but there's no big. You fix you solve the problem in the first 25 minutes. The rest of it you try to make a name for yourself, and actually that makes sense. I just had that breakthrough mentally. She by the last third wants her last big score to be taking down the Captain Enterprise because she wants to be she wants to have another big success story because she's retired, she's bored, she's sad, she's got nothing in life except this.
I don't think necessarily that. It's just to prove the Romulan Klingon connection, and the conspiracy leads all the way to the captain of the flagship of the Federation and how this people under his command was all because she mentions a few times about the conspiracy on the ship and how it's kind of scary. So,
but I think she's obviously she's letting other stuff force her opinions, but I think because she does want to be relevant again. She wants to be known for something. Taking down the most famous captain actively on the most famous ship. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I didn't get that until talking about this now. Like, she's not in the loop anymore and she wants to be in the loop. Yeah.
James McGill, $5.
Thank you.
This episode really makes you think about real life ethics. Oh no, this admiral is investigating Trekyards. How would you both do under her interrogation? I would tell her to go fuck herself. I'm sorry, I just cannot stand this woman. Ugh. And she really didn't do the interrogating.
No, she didn't.
The Betazoid guy, and yeah, so
she was the authority in the room, but not really the talent, which is weird.
Yeah, she's a figurehead, like the judge kind of.
Yeah. You have my pushing because I'm an admiral. Do what you need to do. Mr. Beta is using his powers slightly inappropriately. I mean, I'm not the biggest. I'm not the most against. If you've got nothing to hide, you don't need to speak. Because I don't try and do things that are wrong, but people can take things out of context, as we've seen in comments. So if you don't mean to say or do something, and someone takes it out of context, then you've done something wrong without doing something wrong, which is weird. Because and as we've found, if people want to find something wrong with you, they will. Doesn't matter what you do, who you are. So if there's a witch hunt, there's a witch hunt. We just hope that
if you're the target, you're screwed regardless whether you did right or not. So
so just hope to not deal with those people. That's why we don't deal with politics on this channel. We don't deal with the SJW conversation. It's just not interesting to us. You can't win that fight. We're just going to do the positive style, informative, interesting debate and discussion on actually interesting topics. I don't care about that shit. It's not necessarily good for us all, but this is more interesting.
Yeah. Judge 1981, $2. Hashtag Trekyards conspiracy.
Don't tell anybody, Judge. Jesus.
We have creatures in our bodies to control our minds.
But speaking of control our minds, now we get to this very blatant start of the Worf-Sati relationship. And I do. It's lovely woven in. She's overly complimentative. And in this context, she wants to use his Klingonness against the other Klingon. You can kind of tell there's a gentle manipulation here. You don't get Admiral without knowing how to be a captain, how to be with people.
She says, I think he's going to be very important in this investigation.
Yeah.
But before that, though, we find out that he's found out about the his hyposyringe, and it's used to treat his Baltimosaurus syndrome. But it's been fitted with an optical reader, specifically modified to read data from Starfleet isolinear chips, and then extract that information from a computer, encode it into the form of an amino acid sequence, and transfer it to the fluid in the syringe, which can be ejected into anyone, whether they know it or not. And then that information can be passed along to whoever needs it.
What an incredible idea.
Yeah. It's amazing.
It's real simple, but really good simple,
Yeah. Yeah, and I think this starts the whole indication that she's crazy. Her reaction, Lieutenant Worf, when you confront him, I want you to be in charge of the interrogation. And she would know at this point his history. She would know the Romulan connection with him, because later we find out the Betazoid knows, and he says, we had our doubts about you, but I think that's unwarranted now. So you'd think if she's not stable, because this minute she's like, this will be beneficial to us, and later it's like everything's a conspiracy. So,
well, she's also, I'm sure, she has to use him because he's chief security in some context, but also she's keep your friends close, enemies closer. She's obviously, like I said, she must have been incredibly talented in her prime, so therefore there is some reason. She knows how to play the game. It's just when she sees things that aren't there. But yeah, like I said, I love the fact that she's obviously using him, and she's grabbing hold of this card she can play, because only a Klingon can push another Klingon, And I get the feeling that she's not used to having the sort of brute power of a Klingon, and so if they get to a point where the other Klingon gets up and Worf wants to hit him, she will not punish him for beating him slightly. I get that vibe as well. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she'll say, well, it has to be done. Klingons only understand violence. And Picard's like, you're beating my officers. Fucking hell. But you know what I mean? So it's interesting. You see who she is right from the start, but in the situations, and Picard does as well, where you have to manipulate to get a good end, it's fine. But she's wrong in this case, Yeah. But what if she was right? Then we have a different conversation, as Picard has done many a time. It's tricky.
Unless the Jericho is correct, the Dominion War did never happen. Anyway, Ozzy Maderos, $5. All hail Superior Commander and Super Captain Foley. Fleet Admiral Skeleton Hands. Okie dokie. I give the Trekyards awesome job. They passed. Thank you, Fleet Admiral.
Thank you.
SWTX Chaser, $5. Wasn't she the conspiracy admiral that she was known for when she was introduced, making her likely to see conspiracies everywhere. I didn't get that sense that she had got any other conspiracies under her belt. They never mention anything specifically.
No, he means what I said at the start when she walks in. They say, you were the one that helped us with the conspiracy aliens 3 years ago. It's just she was never mentioned and doesn't make much sense that she was there. It's that moment.
I missed that, apparently.
Well, yeah, I talked to you about it a few minutes ago when she was... Because they say 3 years ago, the conspiracy in Starfleet, which is season 1 conspiracy. There's only one of those. Although Paul B and Dan says the tech of hiding info in the bloodstream was actually shown in Enterprise later on and before with the guy in the pilot, which is true. He had a message for the Klingon High Council in his DNA. Brilliant, love it.
And Eugene, 2,000 rubles.
Just $25. Thank you.
Awesome, that is great. 9.5 out of 10. Excellent dark episode. I only wish Worf had started to suspect Sati to be the actual traitor, so the Inquisitor falls victim to the Inquisition they build, as it always happens. Yeah, if it would have been a longer, I can see that turning around on her, and yeah, absolutely. Because that's unfortunately this environment breeds that kind of suspicion, and all of a sudden you don't trust anybody. So yeah, that would have been kind of great, but.
I wouldn't call her a traitor, though, just a senile old woman. Like, that she's not intense, she's trying to do the best, it's just you got the wrong end of the stick. You know? So, I wouldn't say. And also, Supercoop says, yes, guys! Yeah, guys, it's one of the reasons I love this channel. The lack of any politics is very refreshing, just a good conversation about something we all love. Love, long, and prosper. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so now we got the interrogation from Worf. Tracked the movements of everybody you've been in contact with since you've been here, and one Tarkanian diplomat. He traced him as far as the Cruises system, where he disappeared and has not been seen since, implying that he defected over to the Romulans or went back to the Romulans, whatever.
Or was captured like Geordi. I think you can take it either way. Although this is, I think, one of the weak concepts of this episode is that because he's so good at his job, there's no drama here. Like, he just says, he works out what happens instantly, and we're like, okay. And then he confesses. Like, it's very straightforward. There's no sort of twists or real here. It's just exactly what it says on paper. And it's good, but there's nothing else here. It's very, very blunt and straightforward. I wish there was more,
Yeah, and its justification for it, like the Klingons' blood has become like water since this treaty with the Federation turned a nation of mewling babies. Anyway, the Romulans are strong and worthy allies. So,
at least they didn't say, "And I did some digging into your background, scientist. Your real name is Duras." It's like, damn it, why is every Duras? You're the fourth cousin of Duras. I'm a Duras. And then beeps out and Lewis is like, haha. But what do you think about the instant swap to being, no, it is me, I am the villain? Because he kind of swaps on a dime.
I don't know what to think about it, honestly, because it ties in here now with we're talking about the sabotage now. He's like, I didn't have anything to do with that. She's like, well, why lie now? You just confessed to the other thing. It's just to build up to that. And so it had to happen. It was one of the blocks. So.
Well, yeah, like you said, we have to get to part 2. So part 1 has to finish now. He's no longer important.
Yes.
Which is why it's like I said at the start, it's a fun thing of the coincidence is the next. They found the truth, but how does he explain the problem?
And even the Beta Z guy says he admits stealing the files, but not sabotaging the lithium chamber. And I have no sense that he's lying. But that's when it becomes somebody else is involved. You have some more shit going on your ship than you don't.
Which they do make a good argument later. Like, how did he get assigned to the flagship without some sort of backing? And that I think is a fair argument, unless they corrupted the guy that happened to be going on Enterprise anyway. Like, it's one of two ways. I really wish, and I thought this right from when they said that, I was hoping that it wasn't a coincidence that the Romulans just sent a guy without telling him. Because the Romulans could also get a guy on the ship and like, they have the plans for a week. They'll just send a cloaked ship, be on board, and do the sabotage. Like, so he doesn't know there's a bomb, but there was a bomb. Like, I would love a double reveal, He just didn't know. He wasn't told.
Melissa Jericho, so who did sabotage it at the end? Well, you're going to find out in a minute.
Oh, okay.
Nobody is the answer.
Yeah.
And interesting shot here, too, because when she says, you have a bigger problem on your ship than just one Klingon exchange officer. And he, like, looks right at the camera. Like, it's me? What? You're blaming me?
Yeah. There's some slightly odd choices. Slightly odd choices with the filming.
Yeah.
But I appreciate this is the same.
Well, it's Frakes. It's one of his first director choices or directing jobs, so
had to make himself stand out. And this is the same battle bridge set which we've seen as often. You can tell by those top areas. So it's the same set that they have Measure of Man in, but I really like to make it look different. The back wall, the blue back wall, that really gives it extra pop. I mean, the iconic images of them behind it. But is this the same room again? Battle bridge, the same room.
Mm-hmm. Sergeant Montgomery, $5. She's the C word us Westerners are not obliged to use, and I wish Picard would have called her out on it. Thank you, Trekyards crew. Yep, she definitely is that.
The sheer fucking hubris of her.
Which I have no problem saying, but I'm not going to say it right now. Right?
I mean, doesn't she just remind you of...
Maybe we'll see her next Tuesday.
Cornwall, Cartwell, whatever her name is. Like, she's such a parallel for that horrible CNC Admiral. You know, like, it almost could have been the same... Imagine if they had the same character. Like, really? You got promoted? That would almost made 200 cents. Or it's like, oh, imagine if it had been a sister. Ooh. Oi. But yes, thank you.
Yep. So they're having tea in Picard's quarters. No, I guess her quarters, because it's not Picard's quarters. It's a different desk and stuff. But and she's talking about the specter of conspiracy on board a starship is a frightening one. But then they start talking about her dad and how he was, an influential. Of course, his work was required reading at the Academy. Everybody's is, but. And then she talks about how she was raised and how her and her dad would give them something to discuss at the beginning of the supper, and they basically have to make the arguments all over the place for it, and they couldn't leave until they were done. So she learned how to do this from very early on, and just building up that relationship with her father.
Yeah, I did think it was a little bit forced dialogue of setting him up, like. Oh, yes, and your dad. You knew my dad. Well, you probably went to the academy. Like, you would know your dad's teachings at the academy. So it seemed very much for the audience and very heavy-handed. It was not a well-crafted little conversation. It's like, you need to tell you the dad's important because it's important later. Okay, here we go, we told you. Like I said, the script's nowhere near as refined and crafted as Measure of a Man. It's much more blunt and normal. It's the subject matter that elevates it, and the acting, not so much the script.
And tuning 3434, I'll have to look into that. Why do we not have skeleton hands or a badgy emoticon yet? The neglect, the sheer neglect. We need more people to join the channel so I can add more emoticons. I'm still waiting for a certain ship one from a certain commander. How it shall remain nameless. Sergeant Montgomery, $5. Oh, I read that one already. Never mind. Don't yawn. It's contagious.
Sorry.
Everybody's yawning. What do you do?
Then she talked about something else after that. Oh yeah, then she basically this is where she's a bit of a heartless woman. She's like, I like to work alone, partners suck, which, okay, her rationale is fine. And I really resented being assigned with you. And his face says so many, he's genuinely hurt. But then it pays off with saying, but actually you impressed me. And then he's, oh my God, and you've got a great still. Yeah. So much like, ooh.
But I was wrong, she said, So it's like that. Yeah.
But the fact that the kind of venom she spits with the I resented being assigned to anybody tells this woman is either your friend or she is your absolute enemy. And once Picard ticks right over, so they do good if they have her kind of extremes. But even Picard, like he's an admirer of her work, so he's like meeting a celebrity judge, like Judge Judy, right? You'd be more respectful because you know of her, and then the pendulum, like I say, swaps. So he's a little bit giddyish for a little bit. But it gets better also as we go.
And Sci-Fi Nation throws in $2.
Hey.
All the likes. They got me, Captain. Yeah, we had 101 likes, so thank you guys. If you haven't hit like yet, there's a few of you out there, I can tell. Hit that like button, guys. Let's get those up. And I don't know why. We're likable people, I guess.
And it's a likable episode, too.
So we get Worf and the Beta Z guy, and he hadn't made many friends, this guy, so there's a short list of people to talk to. And then he's like, "You did a good job, Lieutenant. I kind of doubted it based on your father's history with the Romulans." Like, and it's really weird, really directed here. Because he says, "Frankly, when I first heard about your father, my father," it's like he was supposed to say my father sooner because it's like a cutoff point. Anyway. But, what my father did concerns nobody but myself. And he's like, yeah, well, I thought it might be a problem, but, you're proving me wrong. So we're going to be a good team. It's basically the exact same scene we just saw, but with the two other people involved.
I felt both sorry for Worf and also annoyed by Worf because, he knows that the government knows his dad's fine, but he's having to hide it. So he's like, but he wasn't. So the fact that he doesn't even, like his acting doesn't even represent he knows the truth, which I thought was kind of an odd choice. Like, if you hadn't seen the episode, you'd be like, oh yeah, his dad did betray the Klingons, But then the way he ends the scene, like you say, it's what my dad did is not up to you. Like, it doesn't matter. It's like, yes, it does. What do you mean? It puts you as What do you mean? If your dad's a misadministrator, you might be too. What are you on about? It does concern him. It does concern. Like,
but it opens up, if you've watched the other episode, you know that Duras is working with the Romulans, or suspected of it. So now with this Romulan conspiracy going on, it makes you doubt Worf's intent. Like, it actually ties in very well. It's very subtle. So yeah.
But I think it's good. The fact that he shuts him down in the least effective way possible, saying, "Oh yeah, no comment." Well, that doesn't help at all, does it? Then he should just say something more interesting to justify that he's like. It's like saying your dad was a terrorist. Yeah, but let's not talk about it.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be relevant though. Yeah. I don't know, it's just a weird way of shutting down the conversation. And like I say, there's no hint that he knows the truth. I wish Michael had put a bit more something, Yeah,
well, yeah. Next scene, Crusher is on the stand.
Uncomfortable.
And talking about the injections that this guy had to do. Did you do them yourself? No, I had my assistants do them. About once a week that he came in.
And I like Satabi's context here of, oh, so you're too good to do that. And she's like, yes, I'm the chief of medicine. What do you want? What do you mean? This guy was literally one of 500 people until today. I'm sorry, I don't do this. And I love that. She's like, you condescending bitch. Of course she's not doing that. Do you know what I mean? Like, did you get that too?
I didn't, but I can see why you'd say that. I mean, it's interesting.
It's like, I know it's important today. It wasn't yesterday. Calm down.
Anyway, so yeah, Worf brings in the next guy, who's Mr. Tarsus.
He's so awkward.
Yeah, well.
Oh yeah, no, it's fine. It makes sense. It's just so visible acting.
Yeah. So Simon Tarsus is his name. First class medical technician. He's just a crewman. He's not an officer.
Full uniform, no pips.
Yes. So yeah, they ask him if he was the one that gave him the injections. He says yes, sometimes, not all the times.
Like twice.
Yeah. Oh, we also, before that, though, we start out with he was born on Mars colony, and his paternal grandfather was Vulcan. That's why he's got a little bit of a ear point, which is kind of nice, subtle makeup.
Because you can tell his ears are a bit weird, but people's ears are a bit weird. But when you realise, it's like, oh, okay, and because his eyebrows are a little bit odd too. Yeah, it was a very, very good makeup. It's just the right amount.
Yeah. So he sometimes saw him outside of the sickbay in 10 Forward, hanging out with people, but it was never anything, that's considered odd.
He was there. I was there. I didn't talk to him.
Yeah. And then they ask, of course, is there anything that he has said in passing that now, based on what's happened, he's like, no, not really. He's just a nervous kid he knows he's hiding something. I don't know how he could serve in Starfleet for all these years having known that you lied on your application, anytime you got called in for anything, you'd be like,
well,
you know,
and especially as this guy's probably in his late 30s, given the fact that Romulans and Vulcans age slower.
Yeah.
He's been on the Enterprise for 5 years. He said he worked on several colonies and stations. You wouldn't get the Enterprise until later in your career, and you're 18 when you started. So he's probably he's older than he looks. Obviously, he wouldn't be at this point. So he's got to wait for it for 10 years. He's probably been in situations where it could have come out. I don't like the fact that he's hiding something. He wouldn't go straight to, I'm secretly a Romulan. Like, there's no connection there because he's not hiding anything in the real context. The nervous I love because he doesn't want to be on, like, this is uncomfortable, but I don't, there's too much of a leap there for him to get.
But considering that this is a pretty serious thing, the captain's there, you know, like, this is something that if they would have looked into it and found out, this is how they'd probably talk to him about it. And in relation to the Klingon guy that was just supposedly, you know, suspected of sabotage, I would be kind of nervous myself going in for that. So,
but he would have stood outside with a little queue of people, so he knows he's not the only one. Like Beverly, like if Beverly just came out, you know, and he doesn't know they're Romulans yet, because once he hears Romulans, there's a reason to be concerned. But he doesn't know Romulans yet, he just knows the Klingon guy. Romulans come in the second investigation, I believe. Because I was wondering, the way he plays it, I almost got the sense he did actually talk to the Klingon. So he's genuinely hiding, I did interact with him more. What did you get the sense? Because if that one connection was, I did have a drink with him a couple of times, then I'm hiding that little connection, which then leads to a bigger connection. But that's not explicit. What do you think?
I didn't get that. I didn't get that at all.
Okay.
He's just nervous about the Romulan thing, just being found out. I think anyway, because when he leaves, the Betazoid is like he's hiding something. It's so big, it's overwhelming him.
I just don't know why I've been on his mind like as the thing. You know, that was so many years ago, and it doesn't define me. I don't know, but like I said, I kind of wish they'd said he'd actually hang out with them at least once. You know.
Then we get the ready room scene where he's like, you know, I don't think we should just restrict his movements based on just the Betazoid intuition. She's like, well, he's got uncanny instincts. I've learned to trust them. And wouldn't you restrict the crewman if your counselor said that, you know, there's some suspicious activity? He's like, yeah, probably. I'm going to rethink that now, though. So, again, a good conversation here because she uses it against him that he has a counselor that's Betazoid, which he has used in interrogations. So
well, and just in you know, it's not fair. It's not fair, especially if he's like against a Romulan on the view screen. She says he's lying. I mean, you haven't given permission to be scanned by a telepath. How's that different? You know, you're lying or not lying. That's all the guy did. He lies or not lies. So Picard does the exact same thing. It's just a member of his crew is being defensive, and he doesn't see the evidence. And I agree, it's too much to go against. And one of the best lines later on is, "We'll prove his innocence." No. You prove guilt. That's a massive distinction. So here, that's where it comes from. She's assuming guilt, but we'll prove his innocence. And Picard's like, no. You've got non-evidence of a maybe something. We ain't going to track him for non-evidence of maybe something. Could be anything.
But then she guilt trips him and says, well, you're going to allow a possible saboteur to roam free on your ship. What if next time somebody gets hurt or killed?
Yeah.
And then it gets interrupted by LaForge saying you might want to come to engineering right away.
And that's the problem, isn't it? You know, is it worth taking the risk of not tracking a potential saboteur? Well, no. But he hasn't done anything wrong, but he may have. And that's the problem. If he was, then she'd be right, and the episode would be different. But that's the problem, you know. How many times are they in the right, and they go to extreme measures? If it's the hero doing it, it's okay. If it's not the hero, okay, it's not okay. And that's why in Star Trek you always have the episodes where follow the rules because you need to follow the rules. Don't follow orders blindly. No, you need to follow orders blindly. They have both as the message of the episode.
Even later, when they question Picard, saying, "Did you deliver this, you know, Vulcan ambassador to the arms of the Romulans?" Turns out she was undercover, and they first asked, "Explain what happened on Stardate, whatever," and he's like, "I was following orders."
Oh, and the way he says
first lines out of his mouth, I know, and it's like, how many times have you heard that? And then the rebuke is, how many bad things have happened because of I was just following orders.
Yep. And the way he says it sounds like a trained, like, officer who's, you know, and he does. Oh, it sounds so hollow, and he really shouldn't have said that. Oh, but
it didn't fit the situation. It was not well.
But it's also the truth because he didn't know. And that's the thing, because he was the hero. It worked well. It's exactly. Well, it's like weird. Someone mentioned it earlier, but Captain Maxwell, who shoots the Cardassians, his crew is following orders. No. Yeah, his crew are just following orders on his Nebula class. They shouldn't be to blame. They could have chosen not to follow orders, but the guy gave them evidence that the Cardassians were doing bad things, which they were. It's only wrong because he's the wrong character. How many times does Picard destroy a thing because they're doing a bad thing? You know, they were all following orders, but they had evidence and they were right. But it's not moral, but they were right. And he wasn't crazy. Lovely line. He wasn't actually crazy. It's tricky.
Fleetpaw Swiftback, $3. Hi guys, sorry I'm late. Here's for 110 likes. Thank you, Fleetpaw. Good to see you. Welcome.
Better late than never. What do you think of this episode, Fleetpaw? Tell us in the chat.
So anyway, they calm down. They've done some micro tomographic analysis, and they basically it exploded because it was an defective part. The frame from the frame ruptured because there was just stress on it, and it was like a 1 in a million chance that they would get something like that. It was just a flaw in the design or the manufacturing of it,
and not in the design, just in the metal. Like couldn't have told, couldn't have known. It was so absurd.
Breakdown of the atomic cohesive structure,
and they're again so nonchalant. Because they're in it just for the scienciness, the evidenciness, and Picard, you can tell he's kind of relieved. He's like, "Oh, okay, great, there we go, end of episode. Right, warp out. We've done it. End of episode. Next week we're seeing Q again. I don't know, but no, Stuart. Nope, it does not end here, and it really should. Oh dear.
Yeah, well, yeah. It wasn't. This wasn't sabotage at all. It was nothing more than an accident. And Picard looks at her like, "There you go, my top guys. They say it's And then we go to the Betazoid guy, cut to him in the conference room. An accident. I find that hard to believe.
We're not scientists, so... But the problem I had with it... Well, first of all, when you watched this, either the first time or this time, did you think it was still an accident or a sabotage? Like, where did you side, gut reaction?
Accident.
Okay, because things aren't always as they seem. I mean,
no,
it already changed to watch this episode. Because surely the Romulans are so good they can make it look like an accident. Like, isn't that the point of most sabotage? Just look like an accident.
Well, that's what happens later, though, when they're like, there's some chemicals that are in sickbay that were used, and I'm like, what? Wait, when did this happen? What? Did I miss something?
Yeah.
And then it gets explained that it was just a tactic. But yeah, I thought for a second that I missed something. So anyway.
But you know what I mean? Like, the best things look like accidents. So I wasn't sold. Well, I thought it was a really good little twist, but I was kind of thinking, the Romulans can make it look like an accident. If they wanted to.
Oh, for sure. And is that actually a medical tricorder? No, it's not. Well, it does have a thing in it. It's not the same though.
They do have engineering ones with the
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know. The medical tricorder has a bigger thing on the end for the probe to go into.
You never see it that clear though. It was kind of weird to see it like that. Like, oh, that's a good looking probe. Yeah.
Yep, I made sure to get good screen caps of that because it looks really good.
Yeah, really interesting. This is the episode turns now. It goes from justifiable investigation to witch hunt. It's such a switch.
Yeah, because here we get the whole, just because it wasn't sabotage doesn't mean there's not a conspiracy on your ship. You do have a confessed spy, and then the other guy speaks up, and he has Confederates. So
and it does make sense. You have to have at least one person Starfleet to help him get on the ship. There is some logic there, but there's no reason to be this guy. Like,
and I love how the one lady is taking notes of everything Picard's saying. And he like looks at her like and walks away. Because that would get annoying pretty quick.
Yeah.
I'd be cursing up a storm. Write that down, bitch.
Yeah. And I hate everything about my life. My name is... It's like, what? Oh, God. And like I said, this is when they say, we'll prove his innocence. And Picard is like, oh, this is going... And you would think these are professional investigators for Starfleet. You would think they'd know the job correctly. So just, just the fact they're able to say that shows there's something wrong with these people. and I wonder why. And it's just because Saturday kind of corrupted them over time and justify the means mentality. Because he's so obvious, like obviously he's guilty until proven innocent. That's not how you do that.
Yep.
It's weird.
So we get down to the next trial day, and Picard walks in, and there's a full house. And it's like, you open this up to spectators?
Well, not a full house, because in the Picard one there is a full house. There's a little distinction of slightly fewer people, but it's almost.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's quite an abrupt, like, oh, people.
Well, I love her explanation, though. Like, closed-door hearings generate too much speculation and rumor. You know, these guys don't like being under a microscope, so they scurry like cockroaches. Makes them nervous, puts them off their game. Fine. Great. I'll agree to that.
There's certain logic, yeah.
Yep.
But you should have told him.
But the poor kid. Yeah, the poor kid is really nervous, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, yeah. God, yeah. Brought in a second time. Obviously, something wrong, didn't you, at that point?
Yeah. And so Riker's been assigned as his lawyer. And the guy's like, I don't need a lawyer. I did nothing wrong. So then they talk about giving him the injections, they ask Troy, have you seen Mr. Tarsus and the other guy outside a sickbay together? And she says, maybe in 10 forward. I don't really remember. Not important.
And it felt so uncommittal. Like, I've been there 4 times. I've been busy. Although you would think they could just subtract their combat and see if they ever interacted, because they've already done that once.
Right.
It wouldn't be hard. Like, why eyewitness testimony that may or may not remember? Because she's not going to register this. She doesn't care. You know? It feels very flimsy. I mean, that's the whole point. It is flimsy. Although I'm pretty sure she's not covering for him either. She is honest, but she's also non-committal. But she's also eyewitness testimony doesn't really mean as much as it could.
Yeah. Yeah, and Picard's like, if you have a case to make against him, you better make it now. She's like, just a second. Then the guy gets up and starts asking him about the chemicals and stuff in sickbay and how those are actually found at the in the engine room that caused the explosion. Corrosive material. And he's like, I had nothing to do with that. Well, how can we believe you when we know that you're a liar? And it's like, how do you know I'm a liar? And then they go into the whole, his Romulan, or his paternal grandfather was in fact a Romulan, not a Klingon, or not a Klingon. Oh my God, Romulan, not a Vulcan. So because they have this evidence, now anything he says is suspect to, could be considered a lie because you can't trust him. So he lied on his application to Starfleet.
Well, how do they know he's Romulan?
I don't know. They never explained that.
I guess they didn't falsify records that well. Especially since Vulcans and Romulans are almost identical unless you're an Northerner.
Yeah.
Then you're very different, and Stuart does not approve. But this is where I think you lose all respect at all, because once you start lying in the courtroom, that's the line where these people are wrong, because you can't do that. You can't lie to the person to make them confess. That's the whole point of a courtroom. It's about truth, honesty, and now you are wrong. Whatever happens now, this woman is corrupt, broken, and you can't take him seriously.
And the way that this unfolds, because he says, so tell us the truth, was your paternal grandfather Romulan, and did you lie in your application? Riker goes over and talks to him, and he says, on the advice of my counsel, I refuse to answer that question in case the answer might serve to incriminate me. Well, you just answer the fucking question. If it incriminates you, the answer is obviously yes. So you said yes without saying yes by saying you don't want to answer. You know what I mean? Like, I hate that. And ironically enough, he does the Vulcan salute on his face when he's like...
Yeah, I thought that was pretty bad writing, because he says he commits to being it before he commits to it. He should have said... So ask me the question. Ask me what he says, right? And I'll be him what you should have said.
Oh, hold on.
Because his answer was absolutely right. It was the worst answer possible. And if that's what Riker told him, don't quit your directing day job. Okay.
He says, isn't it true that the paternal grandfather of whom you speak was not a Vulcan, but was, in fact, a Romulan?
I do not recall. That's a stupid... That's what you say. Like, Like, no, say no comments that I do not recall.
I would just say I can neither confirm nor deny.
Yeah. But yeah, bad ride. It wasn't. Well, I know he's nervous, but Riker surely just told him something to say, and that was not the thing he should have said.
I was told he was a Vulcan till I was 12 years old, and then I found out he in fact was a Romulan.
Yeah.
And my dreams of going into Starfleet were shattered. So what better way to get around it than lie on my application? Because...
And obviously, it is a sad state of affairs if they don't let Romulans in Starfleet quarter Romulans. The fact that he felt like he needed to lie.
Yeah.
Like, that is racism, unfortunately, or speciesism.
Well, yeah, and the way he answers it by... It might incriminate me. It's the Fifth Amendment, essentially, that you see in all the movies and shows.
But don't put incriminate in your answer. It's not a...
Yeah, I'm not going to answer that because it might incriminate me. Okay, so that's a yes.
That's check. A yes.
Because otherwise you'd say no.
All right. I do not recall. Yeah. No, it's yeah, weird.
Then we get Worf and his security crew, and they're like, we've got to coordinate and track his movements over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And he talks to Ensign Kellogg, who I'd like to see in a bowl of milk because she was nice. I want a list of all the relatives and associates, his old friends and stuff like that. Picard's like, I want to speak to you, Mr. Worf. Yeah. So now it's getting like 5 years worth of where he's been and all of his associates. Like, Jesus.
And at this point, all they have is he ticked the Vulcan.
He lied.
No, he ticked the Vulcan, not Romulan box. That's it. That's all he's done so far. There's nothing else. He's got a great record, or he wouldn't be on the flagship for 5 years, longer than Picard.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense because there is probably no pre-Picard Enterprise, whatever. But I actually love this visual. This is a really strange visual. You never get this many security officers, first of all. And I love Worf's body language. He's at the top chair, hands on the desk. And I love that juxtaposition in a minute when Picard's on one side, Worf's on the other, and it's a power play. And I absolutely adore that. It's great direction. Like, look at Worf here. He's like...
And Worf is sitting in the captain's normal seat as well.
Yeah, it's genius.
So.
It's very, very good direction. Because he's the king of his castle. Because that's the whole point. He's got an admiral siding with him. And the authority of an admiral trumps his captain.
Oddly enough, I'm thinking, why aren't they in like this main security office? Like, we never see that. You know what I mean? There's got to be a security office on the ship. But that's what I thought during the scene for some reason.
Because they haven't got a set.
Then it's a nice back and forth between Picard and him. Mm-hmm. You not see what's happening here. Mm-hmm. And talk about Drumhead trial, how justice was handed out just, there's no appeals, nothing. The judgments were severe and harsh. And basically there was no justice. It was just whatever, right?
Was also, there may have been justice, but it was a shotgun approach. Punish everybody on a little bit of evidence. And I'm sure you're going to get some criminals, but innocent people are going to fall. Because this guy is technically a criminal, but not for what you said, not maliciously, and he's still a good guy and a good officer, clearly. So you're doing the wrong approach. But Worf, I think, is obviously just enjoying the chase. He's enjoying the Sherlock Holmes-ness of it. And he doesn't know the guy, so he's seeing it purely as a technicality. Like, he's a statistic of someone I can go after. Yeah,
and he says this Tarsus kid is basically admitted his guilt just like the other guy did. And Picard's like, how?
Yep.
He refused to answer the question about his Romulan grandfather.
Yep.
That is not a crime, Worf.
Nope.
Nor can we infer his guilt because he didn't respond. And then Worf's response to that, which you hear a lot of times, sir, if a man were not afraid of the truth, he would answer, oh no, we cannot allow ourselves to think that. The seventh guarantee is one of the most important rights granted by the Federation. So
and then he says Constitution.
Yeah. We cannot take a fundamental principle of the Constitution and turn it against a citizen.
Yeah. You can't get more blunt and over-the-head hammer, but it's important.
And then the whole, the road from legitimate suspicion to rampant paranoia is much shorter than we think. Something's wrong here, Worf, and I don't like what we've become, and he storms out. That's awesome.
Yes.
It's a great scene.
But the only issue is that this happens all the damn time, and they're right. They go on very flimsy evidence, and because that's what the story dictates, they're right.
Mm-hmm.
But because they're wrong this time, it's presented as one way, and it's a little bit. It is a bit of a hypocritical episode that isn't quite,
There's two sides to every story, and we're just seeing the other side of the story this time.
Yeah, well, exactly. And I do appreciate that Worf, because again, he is a criminal, quote unquote, but Worf is assuming everything when all he has is a puddle of information, and because like you say, you cannot leap from one ill truth to a saboteur that may have destroyed the Enterprise. That is not what you have information on. But Worf's also meaning well. You know, he is doing his job. Like I said earlier, he is doing his job by order of an admiral that outranks his captain. Worf's doing everything right. Totally by the book. Because an admiral is pushing this in a way that isn't right.
Right and just. And that's from what Picard said. Legitimate suspicion to rampant paranoia. It's a short line.
But as we've just said, what if the admiral had a gut reaction and was like, oh, we'll try anyway? Because it's the admiral's gut reaction. It's not really evidence. It's gut reaction. But what if she was right? Then going the extra mile is justified. It's tricky.
Yes. Tricky. Fleet Pilot Swiftback, $2. Is your granddad a Romulan? No. Simple. But he was.
Yeah, that's a double lie.
Yeah, it's getting worse. Anyway, speaking of Mr. Tarsus, here they're having tea together. And
yeah. I was not expecting this scene, I'll be honest. This was not a scene I thought was going to come up.
I forgot about this, to be fair. I was like, you wasted a perfectly, whatever. Anyway.
Well, before you get into it, though, because I do want to briefly, though, I'm surprised the guy's even talking to Picard, because this is one of the people who's your judges. You're talking to off record, being truthful. But
you've known him for 3.5 years that he's been in command of the ship.
But that's why I like it, because this is what your lawyer should tell you not to do this. This is really like saying, oh, just off record, did you kill him? Yeah. Oh, okay. And not saying it in the court case, But the fact that he does this is interesting. I just wanted to point that out. Like, it's a weird thing that you shouldn't really be doing, talking to the guy. But, like I say, he trusts him. Sorry. Talk about the scene. I just thought it was an interesting choice for a scene.
Yeah. So he went to took training as a medical technician and served at several of those outposts and got posted to the Enterprise. It was the happiest day of his life. And Picard's like, you ever consider applying to the Academy, going the whole officer route? And he's like, no, my parents wanted me to, but... And then they talk about, I used to sit under this big tree near the parade grounds. That's the tree from Discovery. It doesn't have a bench around it.
No.
But it grew, I guess.
That was 700 years in the future, so I'm okay with that. The bench got swallowed by the tree.
True enough.
Yeah.
Is it an elm tree, though?
I have no idea. Guys, I don't know. Please, seriously, tell us, was that an elm tree? Because if that's it, that's a great reference. Especially as Picard all says, oh, I studied behind that. Everyone studies behind that! Everyone!
Yep. But anyway, yeah, he saw the officers doing their drills and stuff. He pictured himself as an officer, but it would have made his mother happy, but he just didn't feel like he wanted to go to school for 4 years. He wanted to get out there. He wanted to explore. He wanted to be... So he didn't want to take the time. He was 18 and he was eager, he said. So I love that, because I think that's speaking to Picard a little bit. Sure, Picard had the discipline to go through and, get to where he is. But I think he also understands that exploratory vibe.
Yeah.
So, no, it was great.
It also shows that so many people in these crews aren't officers, but can still go out and do. The fact they got onto the flagship for half a decade is extremely impressive, and it shows you don't have. And they also explain he has great clearance. Like, he has access to some really sensitive stuff, free access. So he's a trusted, well-respected. He's not like the lowest ranking non-officer. He's a real part of the crew and a real part of the medical team. But
he said his career's over.
Well,
he's like, no, if you're not guilty, well, I lied on my application. And yeah, we never get an answer as to whether he got trumped out. Like, you got to think, he served for how long and doing very well. This one thing, sure, he lied on his application to get in. We need to find out what happened to this character. And you're right, we didn't get that.
And it's also a technicality. Like, what if his Vulcan granddad Romulan granddad lived on Vulcan and got away with it because they're so similar and didn't want to be on Romulus? Like, you know what I mean? What if he, if he was a Tal Shot ex-operative that killed lots of people and he was a relocation program, that's fine. But there are Romulans that aren't douchebags. There are Vulcans that aren't logic followers. So just because he was born on a Romulan planet, like, they're mostly the same. So I don't, it's such a technicality. Such a technicality. Okay, if he was a war hero or a war villain, fine. But I would, and especially if Picard goes to bat for him, And you can imagine that, I know you can sue people in the modern day, but could he not sue for mistreatment because he got grilled for for a crime he didn't commit in a very antagonistic way? Could he file a complaint against Ataby for being quite aggressive, etc.? So maybe he could guilt Starfleet saying, okay, you're staying in, just we're going to demote you to acting crewman. Because there's nowhere lower to go. Although briefly,
you can either get kicked out or you can go to officer training for 4 years. that should be his choice.
Yes. Although briefly, Jeremy S asks me personally, Samuel, so the ends justify the means? My answer to that is, depends what ends and what means. That's too big a statement. There isn't a black and white there. Sorry.
Good answer.
Yeah. No, this is a fun little scene. And I like the guy a lot. When he mentions his mum being really proud of him, I buy that so much. His mum's actually proud of him being in Star Trek, something about that I like.
Then we get Picard wanting to talk to her, and in private. It was just a nice little cutting little remark. I didn't even look at her when he said it.
Yep.
I just speak to you in private and off the record, and then he turns to look at her.
Lovely power play.
Yeah.
And
she's like, "Oh yes, of course. After all, you're my partner in all of this." Whoa. Yeah.
That feels like she's trying to keep him on a leash there.
Yeah. Yep.
And then he pisses her right off.
Yep, it's gone too far. It's got to stop.
Yeah. It's a great juxtaposition of scenes, because this is the moment in the episode where she's like, "Oh, fuck you, man. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Because he's there earlier, but now she's here.
Yeah, here we get the tactic of lying about the corrosive chemicals, and how they were applying pressure. He's like, "You're hounding an innocent man. There's a difference." Oh, and she says, "Yeah, how you determine that he was innocent?" "Oh, I talked to him." "Oh, okay, yeah. You told me he was a victim of circumstance, blameless and pure." He's like, "No, he admits falsifying his application, and he feels bad, but that does not make him a traitor." Then she says, "Spent the last 4 years going from planet to starbase to planet. I have no home. I live on starships and shuttlecraft. I haven't seen a family member in years. I have no friends, but I have a purpose. Maybe that's because you're a bitch. That's why you have no friends. But why, if she's retired, is she on starbase to starbase, living on starships? I don't quite understand what's going on there."
As I said to you earlier, I definitely there's a slight disconnect in the story. They made a couple of missteps. That doesn't factor in, unless she's retired and yet tries to take cases unofficially. But that doesn't really work either. It would have been nice if she'd said, 4 years I've been back on Earth, seeing my family, haven't enjoyed it. I've missed the chase. Yeah,
I'm very distant from them for all my years of service.
Yeah.
I can't relate to them.
Yeah.
Like that, yeah.
But now I've been asked to serve. I'm right back out here. I miss it so much. Yeah, it was the wrong play.
Well, yeah, and here she mentions her father again. Ever since I was a young girl, clutching a blanket. He talked to me about how great of an institution Starfleet was, the greatest institution in all of mankind's history. And it's my cause to make sure that it's preserved. So she's brainwashed, and she's got her dad on this pedestal. And later that comes to bite her in the ass. And
this is a much better way of talking about him. The first was quite forced. This felt a bit better.
Yeah.
But I you can definitely get the sense that she looked up to him too much. Yes. But obviously she's still quite talented. So I'm kind of annoyed that we didn't get any quite clarification of either she was wrong before or she's obviously very good as well, just not as good as he was.
Well, she's idolized her dad, and that's easy to do once a parent is deceased. You don't remember any of the bad things; you just remember all the good things or what you want to remember, right?
Well, you can also imagine she's been told. It's like I did in my Temporary film. If your dad or granddad's Jonathan Archer, you meet someone new.
Yeah.
Oh, Archer! I recognise that. He was great. So she's been told every captain, every admiral. Oh, I was really big fond of your dad. He was great. She's like, yes, I know. So she's been told all the time. Yep. Always reinforced. Yeah.
And Squadra course, $2. I like that punishment. Go to officer school. I think for him it would be appropriate. Kind of give him the boot in the ass he needed to become an officer to make his mom proud, and But and here's where Picard's like, the trial's going to stop. I'm going to contact Starfleet Command if I have to. And then she gets that look on her face. I have news for you, Captain. I've been in constant contact with Starfleet Command, and the hearings are not going to stop. They're going to be expanded. I'm going to get the heart of this conspiracy. If we even have to investigate everyone on your ship. And then we hear Admiral Thomas Henry of Starfleet Security is going to be joining.
And he'll not even get a line.
That's the thing. I thought he played a bigger role in this as well. I thought he saw a lot of her winning before he saw her fall.
Yep.
I have a very different recollection of this episode than what I witnessed today, unfortunately.
And he was a waste of introducing anybody. He was an absolute waste. Like, totally redundant, shouldn't have been there, etc.
We got to see an Excelsior class, though.
Hey! It looked good. It looked good. It looked good. No, I like Picard's... Because this is where the acting gets... He's now in the defensive, aggressive stage. Every single scene from now on. Because he's fighting against the Federation. The legal Federation. An admiral who he admires. And this is hard for him, so this is very unusual. But the way he says, it stops now, is so measured.
Yep.
And it's not aggressive. It's very underacted. And her response is this: she matches his acting perfectly. Like, oh, yes, well, by the way... It's a wonderful dick measuring contest, and she's got the bigger dick, unfortunately.
Yes. And he doesn't back down because he's Picard. No. And as she's leaving, he's like, what you're doing here is unethical. It's immoral. I will fight it. She's like, do what you must, Captain, and so will I.
Yeah, but it's such a calm scene. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's good weird.
Was it that scene earlier where she said, anybody that's turned on me has regretted it?
No, it's this one. It's got to be this one.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it was earlier, though.
Yeah. Because she's venomous in that. I think that's why because kind of like we go with if people are negative against us, we show a friendly face. He doesn't sink to any level. He stays.
Yeah, here it is.
Yeah.
There have been others in the past who have doubted me. They came to regret it.
Yep.
Like,
and that's the showing she's a senile old crazy bitch, because that's like too far, obviously. But I'm surprised though when Picard says it's unethical. Because what if she's right? You know? It's like, I don't think you can say that yet. I think he goes one... Like, at the end, he can say that. But I think he's a little bit extreme here.
Maybe. I think it bleeds into the next scene, though, where Data's like, the engines are back online, and he's just staring off into space.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, yeah. And Riker asks... Now, this is funny. He goes and sits down in the chair. And you see what's-her-bitch come along out the turbo lift, around the back of the security station, around the other side of the bridge, to circle right around and hand him the pad. It's like, really? You know you can just straight line it to him, right? But anyway. Yeah, he tells number one that he's a little bit preoccupied here, and then he gets handed the pad saying that, guess what? 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, you're getting interrogated. And it's right after his conversation with her, so it's like that's her way of dealing with people. Now he's a suspect.
And this was definitely the twist, because it's the dripping of this is a witch. This is now a full-on witch trial, and this goes from it's no longer this is now part 3. It was originally about the Klingon, then it's about the Romulan guy. It's now about Picard, not about them. Those are totally dropped now from the context. She's moving from victim. Well, from suspect to potential suspect to victim, because she has nothing real on Picard. This is the point where she goes crazy, and it's very interesting. It's like a whoop, crazy.
Matthew K, $5. Since I haven't been around much, I just wanted to say, hey Matthew, how's it going? Good to see you. Thank you so much. And Olivia Julia's $5. Not petting the puggy is immoral and unethical. Those who haven't found to regret it. Pet the pug. Learn from moral code. Yeah, I'll do that later. But this scene where she hands him the pad and he like looks at it and then looks up at as the camera zooms in again. It's like you gave me your nudes. This is the wrong pad. I don't know.
And they're awful. Take them back, madame. Yeah, it's but you can imagine because there's like he's gonna fight her, but he did not think she was going to put him on trial. Like, that was a curveball, I think, where it's like, oh, you went that far. You put the captain. Because for the morals,
it threw him off his game. It threw him off his game, because that's what she wants to do. Yeah. He's standing up to her, and she's like, well, fuck you then. I'm going to throw you off your game.
And this is why I think this is, and I said this earlier, but you didn't necessarily agree, but I think this is the moment where it is now fully personal. Like, she doesn't play Elgons. She now wants to bury him because she's seen all, I keep saying that, I think she's lost it. And she's now just, ooh, I'm going to fuck this guy over.
Yeah.
But that's why this episode kind of falls apart a little bit, in the sense it's now 3 distinct parts of completely almost separate, like, shifted reasons to be. It's like, now we're in the anti-Picard bit. It's like, okay, but it's not as compelling.
Well, it's showing her different mindsets throughout the course of the...
Yes.
Like, when she was excited to work with Worf. Like, he's going to be important in this whole thing.
Oh, God, that turn, when that comes, is very weird. It's very odd. And now, I love this. You do a pan, and the room is full. Absolutely full. And more officers this time. Because last time, there's some civilians. These are all the coloured officers, as in coloured uniforms. And it does give a visual of, like, he is really on trial. She is making everybody... And I can imagine, I'll be honest, that she's done a little census who dislikes Picard. And she might have packed this court with people that are less fond of him based on their records. I kind of get that. Like, that's how packed it is of officers. I know it's a bit of an extrapolation, but, like, that's how weird... To kind of create this atmosphere in the room of judging eyes and like she said earlier, creating this uncomfortability in the person. So she's packing it with people that he... You know, or people he doesn't even know very well. Like, these are people you've never talked to. You know, yeah.
Number 1 special puts in $10 with no comment, but thank you so much. Good to see you again.
But you are special. I keep telling you that.
That's why I keep saying number 1 special instead of no 1 special.
Good.
Sebastian, aka Space Daddy, €2. All hail Papa Smurf. #random super chat. Are you talking about Papa Smurf like Simon Merckx, the model builder who goes by the name Papa Smurf? Is that who you're talking about? But thank you for the super chat, and it is kind of a Smurf color. It's blue. Number 1 special, again, $5. Finally home in time for Alive in a long time, and one of my favorite episodes. Glad you could join us. Thank you.
And we've said hi to you now and go back in time, watch us in the past, and then have us talk to you again in the future.
And for a reminder for everyone that hasn't done it, hit that like button if you haven't already. Thank you.
And we're doing well on Super Chats, guys, but we'd love to see another 50 before the end. Especially at the end, you ask for your scores, etc. So think about your scores and give those in a few minutes.
So Picard says he has something to say, and she's like, you'll have a chance to do that afterwards. He's like, I believe that Chapter 4, Article 12 of the Uniform Code of Justice grants me the right to make a statement before questioning begins. She's like, oh, for fuck's sake. Okay, fine.
I love her face with that. She's just like, you know the fucking rules. Because she was going to... You get the sense from that one moment that she abuses people's ignorance to beat them.
Yep, absolutely.
And I love that little nuance of like, oh, he read the damn rules. I always use them against people. It's like you only have your rights if you know them sometimes.
Yep.
Especially with police officers. You know, if you don't know your rights, they can trample over them because you don't know them. It's like, well, that's... Okay. Some officers, obviously, some. But, that's part of the problem.
Olivia Julius, $5. Time to judge the captain. Stuart, how pointy is your beard? It is quite pointy and nice.
It's nice. Forget
Fleet Pasta, $5. Here comes my favorite Picard speech. Oh. Yes, and it's all like one long pan around the back of the audience's head. So you feel like an audience member because a lot of times there's a head in front of you. So it makes you feel like you're in the court. It's actually a pretty well done scene.
I love I still love the blue light, which is such an iconic visual for being mega uber simple. Like, it's not just blank room or a blank trial. It's got some pop to it.
Should I read the speech?
Do it.
It's not that long.
Yeah, do it.
Okay, here we go. Who does it better? Of course.
Which captain does it better? Vote after he says it.
I'm deeply concerned about what's happening here. It began when we apprehended a spy, a man who admitted his guilt and who will answer for his crime. But the hunt didn't end there. Another man, Mr. Simon Tarsus, was brought to trial. And it was a trial, no matter what others choose to call it. A trial based on insinuation and innuendo. Nothing substantive offered against Mr. Tarsus, much less proven. Mr. Tarsus's grandfather is a Romulan, and for that reason his career now stands in ruins. Have we become so fearful? Have we become so cowardly that we must extinguish a man because he carries the blood of a current enemy? Admiral, let us not condemn Simon Tarsus or anyone else because of their bloodlines, or investigate others for their innocent associations. I implore you, do not continue with this proceeding. End it now. And then she goes on to talk about the Prime Directive, and he broke it 9 times. 9 times.
Is that it?
It's from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It's been absent 9 times.
9 times. So the speech, I think, is fine, but I think it's just re-explaining the scene. Like, it's nothing but a measure of man, where he's so eloquent and poetic. He just explains the situation, has a good message at the end. So I think that's a very normal speech. Like, so that very average for him. Like, there's not much him in it apart from the end, personally. But again, I'm quite a measure of a man, which is the gold, the platinum standard.
Yeah.
But also, it's interesting the way he says that end bit, because in the world of social media, where you say something and get punished for saying something, having a thought, he's saying here, you shouldn't do that. That's insane. And especially, you know, if your granddad was a Nazi, you shouldn't be punished for that, is what he's saying, because those sins do not follow you down. Unfortunately, not necessarily how the world works the whole time, and people do get judged on what they say and punished for what they say, because people judge those things are really, really bad. So it's kind of a, you know, he's trying to say it, but it doesn't always work, even though it probably should, but it doesn't always, like I say, especially with social media. Yeah, good bit in the end.
Well, yeah, here they talk about the 9 times he violated the Prime Directive, and how we're looking at each and every one of those, because Picard says, my record stands. Each of those things are sent to Starfleet. They know what's going on.
Yeah, he's still captain for a reason.
Like... and you get shots of this Admiral here and there. Looking, just never says anything. Anyway, so yeah, and we see Simon Tarsus in the audience as well, which is worth pointing out.
And I find it interesting. As soon as she swaps to Picard, there's no mention of the Romulans, like of the sabotage. It all swaps to him. It becomes a direct witch hunt against him, and it's such a stark parallel, because you do not expect it. Like, if you watch the first time, to think she's going to go this direction, like, she's now trying to topple a giant for her career. It's not about the sabotage. It really isn't. It's a guise for it. So
we get, Captain, could you tell us just what happened on Stardate 44390? And I was like, yes, that was Data's day. O'Brien got married.
I had 4-layer cake, went to the holodeck, had a smoke. It was great. Me and Beverly kissed. Wait, how much do you want me to go into? Sorry, tell her to stop.
Yeah. But yeah, this is where they had the ambassador T'Pel, who they thought was a Vulcan, and they delivered her to the Romulans. It turns out she was a Romulan infiltrator, had been for years. And I love this, where they start talking about when she was standing proudly on the bridge of that Romulan ship, why didn't you try to get her back? And everybody's like, bitch. Worf even stands up and says, the Enterprise could have been taken by the Romulans at that point. He did the only thing he could. Because this is where everybody's realizing that this is just digging too deep for any kind of connection. To blame him for that, like, yeah.
So what do you want to do? Kill my crew and try? What do you want from me? Like, where are you going? And the fact that Worf has to, like, he's not allowed to. You're not meant to speak on a trial like this. The fact that he breaks the rules and he's the rule follower and he supports her. It's a very symbolic, like, I'm going against everything this thing stands for, to express. You know, you weren't there.
She aims it right at him. Like, yeah, where were you? Head of security during all this when she was on your ship.
But the problem is, though, the better question is, where was every officer for the woman's 40-year career? You know what I mean? Sorry, Worf.
Well, yeah.
Who the hell cares what Worf knew or didn't know? There's no reason at all to think she was a Romulan, bitch. Like,
and then she makes it super personal for Picard. So tell me about, have you fully recovered from your experience with the Borg? He's like, I love the way he answers. He answers it like I can't remember say his name. Locutus would have. Yes, I have completely recovered.
Yeah.
It sounded exactly like Locutus there. I don't know why. It's just because he's pissed at this point.
But he knows the calm always wins these situations. It's the most important thing. Because if they can't judge you and they just see you being professional. But yeah, the way he says it in his clinical tone, no, I have not been. Although we all know you should still be scarred. It's kind of ridiculous that you haven't been. It is ridiculous to still captain Enterprise. A whole other story. But even bringing that up is too personal. Nothing to do with anything, and certainly because you're similar to a Borg doesn't mean you help the Romulans. Sorry, where's that from? So yeah, it's great. It devolves.
Well, she's just grasping at straws at this point.
Well, no, but they're not straws. They are the things that define what could be a problem. They're just not connected to the situation.
Well, here she's accusing him of murder. 39 starships and over 11,000 personnel. That's what she's going for.
I know.
It's not hitting. What she's going for isn't hitting, so she's trying everything in the book right now.
And that is a weird one to throw at him because, like, you really don't think Starfleet would be choosing to keep him in command if they think he murdered 11,000 people? And that's
we get the classic. We get the classic meme.
Yes. yes.
James McGill, $2. Prime Directive are more like guidelines than rules. Yeah, they're flexible.
I would say they're rules with a inbuilt buffer. You follow them unless there's a reason to justifiably not follow them. Not so much guidelines. If that makes sense, if that's a slight distinction.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
Fleet Paw Swiftback, $2. She goes bat poo crazy here. Shake my head.
She does. Yeah. And this is also where I think the episode gets somewhat less interesting in a sense because all of the story set up doesn't matter at this point. It's completely irrelevant. Now it's just attack Picard for 5 minutes. Like, it's not deep. It's just throw shit at the camera. You know, it's not subtle. It's just a hammer of content.
But I love his rebuttal. You know, there are some words I've known since I was a schoolboy. With the first link, the chain is forged. The first speech censured. The first thought forbidden. The first freedom denied. Chains us all irrevocably. Those words were uttered by Judge Aaron Satie as wisdom and warning. The first time any man's freedom is trodden upon, we are all damaged. I fear that today. How dare you, who consort with Romulans, invoke my father's name? Wow. It's like, there you go. She's crazy. Done. It's over.
Now that's the good speech. It's not actually his words, but that I think is a better speech. The other speech is fine.
It's a quote.
But he also says it in the best way. And I like that he mentions freedom, because the Federation is all about freedom. You know, we don't need food, drink, water. We're all free to do whatever we want, and we bring meaning into what we can add to the world. You know, and once that first bit of freedom is gone, and living in the world without much freedom right now, it hits home more how important that stuff is. When none of us have freedom right now, really. We're all confined, all being forced to do stuff we don't, not want to do, but whatever. But what's interesting though is that at this point he did the dirty, right? He played the emotional card to trigger her, like she's playing against him. So he's as bad as her in this one moment, but he knows it's that trump card. You know, it's that queen to...
What's the straw that's going to break her back?
Yeah. But it's a dodgy thing. He knows he's doing manipulation. Like, he's not being honourable.
Oh, yeah.
But he knows he has to get her out of the way. I will trigger the show.
For how many minutes? By being called a mass murderer, essentially, and a traitor for working with the Borg.
But he's not using the science logic way. He's manipulating her and breaking her psyche. Like, it's interesting that he's having... But the only way to go against it crazy is going crazy. And yeah, she definitely goes off the handle. Which again shows that she's not sane anymore. She's not okay. She's beyond her prime. It's gone.
Yeah. Area 51, $5. Silent Admiral internally saying, "Don't be crazy. Don't be evil. Don't be crazy. Don't be evil." Yeah. Well, she's like, "I've brought down bigger men than you, Picard," and that's when the Admiral gets up, and just walks out. It's like, oh yeah, this is done. And you notice when he stands up, he's got, the Admiral bars usually have like 4 pips.
Yeah.
On his sleeve, he's got an Admiral bar that has 3 pips.
Yeah, he does. Well, there are. I mean, we do know there are other type of admirals, like Mariner's dad is the other admiral, but not never says there are different types of admirals. They're just never used. So
he's security something. They said earlier, Admiral security chief or something.
Yeah.
And he walks out,
and it is a powerful moment. The fact he doesn't say anything, the walk is still powerful. Because it's like, I don't even need to say anything. This is a waste of everyone's time. You know? And
a waste of the actor's time for being called in to sit here and not have a line. Just look back and forth for 1 or 2 shots and then stand up and leave. Like, I thought he had a bigger part. I thought he had a line or 2. I thought that he saw her like winning and getting these victories and then
being on her side for a minute.
Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And his combat is crooked as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, and everyone, the silence here is deafening. Who talks first? Because everyone knows the power she has is gone. The Admiral walked out of the room. Because everyone, I'm sure, has been briefed that this guy's here to back her up. The commissioned Admiral still serving. And, the silence. I love it.
And just to walk out with silence. I as soon as if I was Picard when he was stepping out, I'd be like, fucking bitch. Just so she could hear me.
Her fucking hubris.
The sheer fucking hubris.
Which is, and then the guy, the telepath, who also I think is like, yeah, she's past it. Because you think about it, he should know her emotional state the entire time. He should know she's wrong, she's unstable. And I'm wondering if the subtext of this moment, and the face you got is brilliant. He's like, oh, I've been choosing not to see this. I sensed passion, instead it's instability. I'm wondering if that's like the subtext, because then he shuts the whole thing down, not realizing it's being shut down, and everyone's just like, I have nothing to say, and then they all just file out in a really awkward way, and I love it.
Yep.
Sometimes a nothing can be a lot of something.
Yeah. And the word from Picard's scene, it's over. Admiral Henry has canceled any more hearings on this matter, and Admiral Sete has left the Enterprise.
Wait, what? Is that it? What? That was abrupt. Weren't there more scenes?
Pretty much.
To Stuart? I mean, we're not going to have a... No? Nothing in between? No? What about the Vulcan guy? Romulan guy?
Don't know.
Oh.
Picard already said that his career is in shambles, so...
Is Sati fired? Is she going to get in trouble?
No, I don't think so, because there's a chance that she could rise from the flames here with this last little thing that's said.
And that's why I said before, like, if she's done 93% of her case was successful, like, this shouldn't ruin her record. That's not fair to her, you know? Because sometimes your hunch is wrong, and she was personal. And also that was weird that wouldn't you think he would keep track of where the Admiral was? Like, for him to be told, not know even that she was leaving the ship, felt a bit odd to me. I know he's the one that would tell him, but I feel like he would know that. Like, the fact that she was leaving instantly, you know? It's like, it's weird to have to be told that. But, yeah.
We've seen the moment that he's told that.
Yeah,
that's all.
Yeah, no. I know, it just feels
like
a bit weird.
10 minutes later when he's in his ready room and Riker comes in to talk to him about the bullet they just dodged, she's like, yeah, I know she left because Worf told me.
Yeah.
Anyway, I like what he says here, though. We think we've come so far, torturing of heretics, burning of witches. It's all ancient history. Then, before you can blink an eye, suddenly it threatens to start all over again. It's great. And Picard and Worf's like, yeah, I believed her.
Yeah, that's a good line. Yeah.
And then the whole Mr. Worf villains who twirl their mustaches are easy to spot. Those who clothe themselves in good deeds are well camouflaged.
And that line I have a slight problem with, because are you saying she's a villain? Because she was wrong this time? Is that what we're ending it with? That she's actually a bad admiral who does bad things all the time? We've not set that up properly. She's had a long storied career. You know? She's a bitch, but I know she's bad this week. But I found that a little bit too far. Because like I said at the start, what are they telling us with the admiral? Has she been a villain for years? Is she good? Is she bad? Was she talented? Was she a fraud? Her dad was a talented one. Like, there's no it's so grey with how it ends. Like, she's not even in trouble according to the dialogue. You know, like it's so ambiguous. What, why, and how she is. I don't know how to feel about her.
Yeah.
You know,
my feeling is she had a nervous breakdown and she's going to be getting medical help for a little while.
I could see that. Well, yeah. It's like the Supreme Court in America. I was making something up, but. You know, if they sentence one wrong guy to prison because they had good evidence, and it turns out he was not guilty, should that politician be judged to be bad and all their other, sentences are wrong? Really?
Yeah, if you're a politician, you're obviously bad.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. But for me, it's like, well, okay, got it wrong once doesn't mean But obviously, it's how they got it wrong. But the record's still important. So it's a bit of an odd ending. But less abrupt than some.
Later, James McGill.
Hey,
James McGill has to go.
Got here till the end. And boy, exactly on the 2 hour mark, Stuart. That was like textbook. Took us the 2 hours to review.
Yeah. Well, see, and it's kind of ambiguous as to what happens to her because he does say, but she or someone like her will always be with us, waiting for the right climate in which to flourish, spreading fear in the name of righteousness.
Now that's a good powerful one because it's like people like her are the problem, not her specifically, but you know, and it's like well, Measure of Man guy, like he used the opportunity to get data to betray potentially rights of a human or rights of a person. You know, not say a bad guy, but took the opportunity and did a bad thing, etc. And
Fleet Paw Swiftback puts in $2 and says, "I've used that quote recently, laughing my ass off." Oh, bam. Goodness. Well, I love the line that ends it out too. "Vigilance, Mr. Worf. That is the price we have to continually pay." Ooh, and Jaddock Productions has joined the channel at the rank of captain. Welcome, Jaddock. Good to see you.
More captains for the captain's ready room. Your lunches of the captains must get very crowded now.
They're getting that way, yeah, but it's fine.
And everyone gets less food each time because you only put out one buffet. So hey, more people. But you know what? The conversation gets even better because of it. So sure. What should people do now? What's the important thing now?
Oh, everybody's gonna super chat their scores in, and I'll read the super chat scores after we're finished giving our kind of not preamble. It's an after amble. I don't know what the hell that's called.
Final thoughts.
There you go. And our scores. I'll read out the super chat scores if you guys want to super chat them. If you don't, if you want to put them in the regular chat, please do so. Samuel will read those out later, and we will get some final scores. Remember, we're scoring for season 4 and all of TNG as well. So 2 different scores.
And $21 more would be perfect, which is not a lot. That's pretty normal for us. So 21 would be amazing. Thank you in advance.
So yeah, like I said, this one I had the Mandela effect going on the whole time. I expected there to be more layers, more people being accused. You know, the Simon Tarsus guy to kill himself, the Admiral to say things. You know, I thought there was a lot more here, and it went by rather quickly, which is kind of odd. It didn't feel as long as it should. Just felt like there was supposed to be more meat on the bones. That being said, I did enjoy the writing. I did enjoy the dialogue. A lot of the directorial choices, like the one take pan around of that speech, I think was really well done. And yeah, good casting because I hate that bitch. Just like Dr. Smith on Lost in Space, I can't stand her. Actually, that means character's done well, you know.
But who do you hate more, her or the Clancy from Picard?
This bitch or Clancy?
Yeah,
this bitch. Okay. Clancy, I understand her motivations considering what's happened. Anyway, neither here nor there. Anyway, so yes.
Although
I'm gonna
quick before though, because we've had a very interesting debate. I think this has been a very good, like, broad topic.
Yes.
Do you like it more or less than when we started, having gone really into depth of it?
About the same, honestly. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would when I watched it earlier today, because I remember not liking her
vicious
character, and just something about it, the fact that I thought he killed himself, and so it's kind of a sad way for because he got accused and his life was over when really it wasn't. That was tragic, but that didn't happen. And like I said, the first time watching it today, I was like, okay, when am I supposed to hate her? Because she's really not that bad until like halfway through. Yeah, so it hasn't changed. Our discussion hasn't changed it much from what I was thinking. So for all of season, this is going to get a...
Sorry, for which one?
I'd say an 8.
Sorry, you went out. For which score, sorry?
Oh, this is for all of season 4.
Okay.
I'll give it an 8 out of 10. I think it's very well done. Picard, like, Patrick Stewart's acting in this is phenomenal. I wish Riker had a bigger role, but he was directing. So
he had a very big role, just the other side of the camera.
Yeah,
the biggest
and
role.
Troy should have been in it more. Troy should have been in it more too, I think. But
it would have been great to have a scene with the 2 telepaths expressing their different opinions on like how they use their powers. That would have been a great scene to show the other guys a bit corrupt too. That'd have been good.
Yeah. Or just her advising Picard, like, yeah, she's not right in the fucking head.
Yeah.
Like.
But that probably been a giveaway to the end, though. Would have telegraphed it too much.
Yeah.
Because it is quite it's literally a snap and a snap and a snap. You know, it comes sort of out of nowhere. Yeah. Okay. So all of TNG, which is the hardest score.
All of TNG, This is always called out as one of the better ones. I can see why, but honestly, 7.5 out of 10. It is good, but like I said, I thought there was more here. And I was kind of disappointed that there wasn't.
Yeah.
Because remember, we decided to do this earlier today. I'm like, ooh, Drumhead. I was thinking it's dialogue heavy. There's going to be a lot to do, and it's
nope.
Watched it. It's like, nope.
it's a far more surface level political issue one. It's not anywhere near as deep as it should be. But that's the thing. It's a very hammer home message. You know, here, thing bad, go.
Yeah.
And that's what it does. So it's understandably simple.
Yeah. All right. So what about your scores? What did you think?
Another $8. $8. We're almost there, guys. Discounting Fleetport because that's cheating. Actually, no, to fair, I didn't even move. So yeah, still another $8. Sorry. Yes. For me, like I said, I did. So I didn't express at the start, but I didn't remember this episode really at all. I knew lore-based drama thing. Okay, I knew Picard was great. I knew so I didn't remember any of the real meat. There isn't that much meat on those bones. Once you know the concept, that's the concept. I thought the acting was good all round. I think they paced some of the segments. I think you should have either taken out the Romulan the Romulan guy or the Klingon guy and combine them into a bigger part to give Picard more time, because they really stretched into many segments, which meant none of them got the same power. Like the Klingon bit is done, over, move on. The middle guy gets a lot of time, but once at some point he's forgotten, and now it's about Picard. It was too many segments to not give them depth. I think that's a shame, because if they'd really focused, like Measure of Man does, I think it would have been stronger. And like you say, more stuff Picard, more stuff at the end, build up Sotheby's, break down more, have a better ending. So it's like, it's really good, but could have been a lot better. A lot better. But that's not a diss against the episode, it's just it had a lot of potential to be even better. But that's like, you don't know that until editing. You know, it really is like a on the page versus how it all comes together. But I think the scores are super fair, I'll be honest. Super, super fair. I think I'm just going to do 7.5 each. I think this season, you know, I think that's also pretty fair. I'm you know, like I said, if no one told me it was the best thing ever, I would have been, 7.5. I'm still saying that, but with the caveat it's not the best thing ever. I think Measure of Man clearly, well scored, is much better. But also it has more Star Trek. This is any show also, apart from the whole Romulan thing. Like, we like the Star Trekkiness. You know what I mean? This could be Law and Order. This could be Orville. Doesn't make it bad, but it hasn't necessarily got that extra zazz, you know? And definitely has no ship stuff and whatever. So we quite like that, the ship guys.
We got an Intrepid class and an Oberth.
We got an Intrepid class, did we? A what, sorry?
No, Excelsior class. Excelsior and an Oberth.
Which were lovely, actually. That was lovely to see. Yeah. And also, I love the fact that she gets a shitty little berth. That tells you subconsciously she's not a high-ranking official anymore. Because that is no Star Trek for an admiral to fly. And I love that. Subtle.
She re-edit it. Have her come in be on the Vengeance. Overshadowing the D.
Or like the Discovery. Just like, whoa, that's a statement.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. All right.
So let's do some super chat scores here. George Knees. What, you're going to say something?
No, I was just go.
Oh, fine. €2, 9 out of 10. Mr. Matt Boardman is here, $10, 9 out of 10 for both. Ooh. 10 out of 10 for the Picard speeches. Loved the music in this episode. Didn't notice the music, actually.
Yeah, can't really say. Sorry.
And yeah. Sergeant Montgomery, $2, 8 out of 10. Fleet Paw Swiftback with $10, so thank you.
Whoa,
9 out of 10 for both. Very memorable. Lots of quotables. Batshit crazy Badmiral, that I'll say instead of poo. No one says poo. Arguably one of the best of season 4 and the series. Quote. Yeah, I got cut off there, didn't I?
Just at the end, yeah.
Oh, that's okay. Christopher Beatty, $5. 9 out of 10, especially at the time it was made. I probably would have given it a 10 out of 10 after I saw it the first time.
It's probably more daring at the time, to be fair. Because at that point, you're not expecting as much story, and you're just kind of impressed by the message. Now I think we want more story, you know? Like, we've had more Star Trek, and we expect more story, more balance. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's it for the Super Chat scores, but if anybody wants to Super Chat snipe for the last slot, consider that.
We only need $1. I'll be honest, we only need $1. So, I mean, that's an easy snipe. But the non-Super Chat scores are, of course, let's see what people are saying. Guys, put your non-Super Chat scores and I'll read those out, even after this little read. 7 out of 10. 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10. 9 out of 10. 7 out of 10. 8 out of 10. 9 out of 10. 7 out of 10. 9 out of 10. 9. 9. That was quick.
Cool.
We're a bit lower than the average, solid 9s, but I do think the overhyping doesn't help. As I said earlier, I wish I went in more blind. You know.
Yeah.
I just see the potential of the extra story. You know. Like, I liked the Klingon story. I wanted the conspiracy story. I liked he was a Romulan guy. I want to see more of that. Don't give me a chunk of each and then ignore them. Like, those both are good stories, you know?
I honestly thought it would have been way more impactful had the guy killed himself because he thought his career was over. The young guy thinks his career is over because he made a mistake years ago.
Oy.
That would be the perfect thing to cap this off going, look what your craziness did to some poor kid whose life wasn't over by any means. You can still move on from this. I thought that would have been better, but whatever. What do I know?
That would have been extremely dramatic, though. And I understand exactly what you're saying, but that would have been like next level drama. Extremely dramatic. But even just knowing if he did or didn't lose his job, that was so essential for it to pay off at the end. I'm shocked they didn't include that. And if they had included it, let's not assume suicide for a second. What do you think is the most likely outcome if you were a TNG writer finishing off the episode to kind of make it a correct ending? What do you think it would have been if they'd said his fate? What do you think it should have been?
Well, that's what I suggested earlier. I think would have been ideal. Like, either you can leave the service, having all these years of good service under your belt, because you lied in your application, you're out, or double down, prove to us that you really want to be here and take the officer training course for 4 years, become an officer. Finally, it's like one of those old time, either you're going to jail or you're joining the Navy. Take your pick. And they do that. They do that. My friend Cliff was in the military, and some of the people he was in the military with had that choice. They selected the Army, and they should not have been in the Army. They were just mentally not quite right for that. But if you had that choice, what would you pick? You know what I mean? Like, So I think in that context, it would have been a great thing for the character because he could have left or finally got the officer, which is, would make his family proud, make him proud. And, I think that would have been great.
My only issue with that is that feels like a reward. Because the academy is very, very hard to get into. Like, remember, there are only like 1 or 2 training academy plots in parsecs. You only get 5 entrants. Wesley didn't
he already did his basic Starfleet training. He just didn't take the officer part. So he's got all that under his belt, plus all these years of time served, essentially, basically out in the field.
Well, he did the unlisted. He didn't do the academy at all. He did the unlisted academy, which is a separate academy. Like, he never did any of the...
Yeah, but it's still the basic groundwork. He won't have to do that again. He'll just have to get into the officer training program.
But you'd assume there would be different qualifications. Like, he doesn't need any of the stuff. Like, he needs the basics.
He's been serving on the Enterprise for how long? It's the flagship. That's the best posting. Like, that speaks volumes to your character. And if you haven't been kicked off after 5 years... Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, that says a lot.
When you can say you served the Enterprise longer than Picard, you probably did a good job to be there, right. That's like, must be as soon as it got commissioned, etc. Like, they did a medical staff, but he was there,
How is that possible? Because Picard took the Enterprise when it was brand new.
Well, Picard was there 4 years and he was there 5.5, so... And in fact, Picard even says 3.5, because this is not even a full year. It's very strange. It doesn't really work.
Yes. But I'm just saying, like, he's obviously dedicated to the job. He's good at his job, and
And if you take body language and expressions of feeling into account, he clearly is so remorseful and so sad that that one thing he cannot change. I'm a quarter Romulan. That does not define me. Like he wasn't ashamed of it per se, but like he clearly has nothing wrong with him. Nothing like that should not define him. And did even make a mistake if he got him in Starfleet, did good. You know, how many lives has he saved since he's been in Starfleet? Probably lots. You know.
Yeah.
He lied. Let's not say he made a mistake. He lied. And like I said, it was just a checkbox. Vulcan or Romulan. He didn't put Tholen, didn't put Andorian, he put Vulcan. They're so damn close anyway. Oh, tricky.
And honestly, all I would have taken is the explanation. Yeah, I didn't find out my dad was actually a Romulan until I was 12. Yeah. And I had already had ambitions to go to Starfleet before that. So that kind of ruined my life. The only way we get around it is pretending that I didn't find out the truth. That I thought my dad was a Vulcan. Like, you could write a really good story around this character.
Yeah. That doesn't really change the personal culpability because he still knew at a certain point, but allows you to have that. If he didn't know for most of his life, you know, he's always like, to him that's a certain truth.
Yeah, and if he was aspiring to get into Starfleet, that one little step, that one little misstep, or that little thing, is your whole life is basically. Yeah. So,
and
would you lie?
And can I add a possible addition, which you tell me if you think it makes that little story, we just got invented, but make it better. If there's a weird line where he says, my granddad was so... He's to encourage me to join Starfleet. Like, he believed in the ideals. Because, actually, that Romulan left the Empire, then moved to a Federation planet, pretended to be Vulcan, and lived a life he didn't like the Romulan Star Empire. So not only is he Romulan, but he actually believed in the Federation ideals. So, then it's only because his race happens to be Romulan. Everything else about him was a sort of true believer of Federation ideals. Like, that's even worse. Like, more hard.
Let's not forget Saavik. She was part Romulan, and she was allowed into Starfleet.
Oh, dude, that's harsh.
But that's also like mitigating circumstances because Spock helped her out and got her in. Anyway,
that's the dude, Drumhead, right there, because that's such a good point. Damn it, that's such a good point. Yeah.
Matt Boardman, $2 with a snipe. Thank you, Matt.
Goodness.
Sent you an email, by the way, Matt. George Nees, €2. Snipe. Will there be another live this weekend? There'll be one tomorrow. We're doing the top 10 Klingons.
Yes.
In honor of Christopher Plummer passing away. So
that'll be a really nice one, I think.
Yes. AC Castillo, $1.33 with no comment, but thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Fleet Pass Swiftback, $2. It would be like going to OCS in real life. It's some kind of military thing, I think. Yeah. Officer command, I don't know,
school. But I think he's the last super chat, so we'll give you guys one more minute. If you want to literally snipe right at the end, but this was fun. Very intellectual conversation I think we had. Very
we are smart. We make reviews go.
We make this live go. We press the button, etc. And tomorrow will be a nice, chill, positive spin. And who knows, Stuart? We might see this Klingon in this episode as one of your top 10. Who knows? Tune in tomorrow to find out.
His outfit certainly would be if we're talking about Klingon outfits.
It's good. It's good.
Matt Boardman, $2. Ooh. Double tap snipe. I did get the email. Dun dun dun.
Did he say dum dum dum?
No, I did.
I suppose very dramatic then. You already added to that thing.
Right.
So, we'll see you tomorrow, guys. And look forward to a video on Saturday, obviously. And just to let you know, I've been filming like crazy. There's some really good stuff on the horizon with brand new. And you'll definitely know when that starts to come out because it's, Look forward to that, guys. So until then, he is the legendary Captain Foley.
I love the look on your face. Like, what's he going to say about me?
Yep.
He is the substandard. I'm just kidding. He is the amazing, awesome, always great, never better, wouldn't ask for anything else. Commander Cockings. Yeah. See? And Matt Boardman has the last super chat slot with the $2 snipe. So thank you very much, Matt.
See you tomorrow, guys.